And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Good morning, Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. What's up, world? How's everybody? Y'all doing well? How's your week so far as we get it going? We got a lot of stuff to get to on the radio broadcast today. A lot to talk about, discuss, opine about, bloviate even, potentially. My name is Rob Brown. Pleasure is all mine. Directly across from me, here inside the palatial Fan Upstate Studios, making our home at the Radio Ranch on the other side of the metaphorical glass and the literal operations board is hashtag DadKicks, Colonel Grudge, the alpha and the omega of the Fan Upstate, the sultan of swag, the professor of perfection, the content cash cow, the wizard of wave himself. Lonzo is on the board. What up, Zoe?
There are extremely tall people in the building. That's just weird. It's not. When you're used to there being only a couple people our height, and then some people come in that are taller, or at least appear to be taller. It's. I'm not saying I'm intimidated. It's just it's odd.
Well, it happened 2 minutes and 18 seconds ago. So I suppose the secret's out.
Well, we already know. Everybody knows
that our sister station. Yeah. WORD is switching signals from 106.3 to 98.9. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Nailed it.
Way to go.
Yes, indeed. But in the process of that signal switch, everybody who's anybody is up in this mug today, right? The big boss is here. The other big boss is here. All of the underlings and minions associated with every station is here. We got political players in the house. Like everybody is up in this bad boy today, which made hilariously quite a moment for me when I was sitting in the office this AM, listening to a recent episode of the Critical Role podcast, which is just dorks playing Dungeons and Dragons like I do. Very loudly, by the way. I'm in the office listening to dorks play D&D.
Listen, there's usually no one in the building hardly at all, and everyone's kind of quiet compared to what it used to be. So you having the volume up any at all can be heard down the hall for sure.
The fortress of nerditude was quite comfortable today with Rob nerding out in there. And then I hear voices coming down the hall, which is not unusual because we got the Rise guys going. We got Stone Man down the hall who can be heard from the other side of the state.
He's got to make up for stuff.
Correct. One of the big bosses, like voices in the hallway is not that big of a deal. So I'm sitting there listening to the voice cast of Critical Role fight a dragon or whatever they're doing. And then the voices turn the corner and it is the downstairs big boss.
Well, he's the big boss of the entire building.
Correct.
Yes.
Like the big boss. As well as like 3 primetime political players in the area, an area in which Rob Brown is trying to ingratiate himself. They turn the corner just in time to hear a natural 20 on a charisma check saves you. Oh, God. Awesome.
Well,
so they all think I'm an adult now?
Yeah, at least you're not wearing a shirt that says, yeah, no.
That's true. What a day we've got lined
up.
And
by the way, I knew all this was happening, and I still did that.
I respect that. A lot of stuff to get to on the radio broadcast today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to dive listen. Yesterday, when Lamar's tweets came out saying that he made a trade request back on March 2nd, it is obviously now March 28th. And as of yesterday, March 27th, it had been, according to Lamar's agent, Lamar, over 3 weeks since he made a trade request to the Baltimore Ravens that has not been addressed publicly. Like, not even rumors about it. And that took over the media cycle yesterday to the point that even trying to get away from that story yesterday, we ended up spending the better part of half an hour on it.
And I questioned whether it was breaking news. Apparently, I was right. It was.
Correct.
Because everyone's still talking about it.
Correct. It is still the lead topic on every sports show so far this AM. And it makes sense, right? You've got one of arguably the best 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the National Football League who is covering himself, allegedly requesting a trade away from the only franchise he's ever played for. The franchise effectively rejecting it outright. And all of this going on while he's under the non-exclusionary franchise tag, meaning other teams could have already been in negotiations for a trade with him and have not. Now, since this news broke, there have been 2 teams that said they are doing their, quote, due diligence, end quote. The New York Jets are apparently...
If you were from Charleston, diligence works. I mean,
doing their due diligence.
Due diligence. Down there on the beach and other places doing due diligence.
We will do our due diligence on the beaches,
in
the skies.
I was going to talk about observing on the beaches, but
The Jets are reportedly interested, and the Colts, as Lonzo predicted yesterday.
Which I started to pull my audio just to, do that thing where you put, see what I said. It's just obvious. It's just obvious.
15 years. And this is probably shocking more to y'all than me. 15 years, I've never pulled my own audio for being right about something.
Yeah,
I really should.
I mean, I started to do that just so I could laugh about it because I know other people do that a bunch, but no.
And now for some expert level predictions, let's go to me. Anyway, the Colts are in.
It was more like, wow, dude, I was right. Cool.
It happened. It happens.
Well, not very often, but when it does,
yeah.
I mean, you want to celebrate.
So the Jets are allegedly having the conversation. The Colts are allegedly having the
conversation. Do you believe the Jets? I don't believe them. I don't.
I do. I think that at some point, you've got to recognize Jackson and Rodgers, in my opinion, and this is subjective, but Jackson and Rodgers, I think, give you a roughly equal chance of being successful. And I think Jackson, if you make him happy, Jackson gives you a longer period of time that success can come for, being 26. You got him for a few more years than you got Rodgers. So I do believe the Jets are interested, and it's on top of the fact that here we are over a week after Aaron Rodgers came out of his hobbit hole, came out of his darkness retreat and said, yo, I'm in. And the Jets and the Packers still don't have a trade deal done because the Packers are apparently hung up on wanting one more first-round pick than the Jets initially put on the table. So if you are the Jets, I absolutely look, you gotta know who your QB is before you go into the draft, which is now less than a month away. We are inside of 4 weeks away from the NFL draft. The Jets need to know who their quarterback is when the draft gets here so they can know which direction they want to draft certain guys, especially on the offense. And so there comes a point where you not only got to know who your quarterback is, but you've got to know who your quarterback is with enough time to build a draft strategy around him. So if we get to April 14th, right? A tick over 2 weeks away. If we get to April 14th and the Packers have not backed down off that extra first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers, right? They just decide we'll figure it out and you can't make that trade happen. I go all in for Lamar just so I got my guy and I know what I'm working with. Even if it means a bigger cap hit for a longer contract, I got my guy. I know what I'm looking at, and I've got time. I've got 2 more weeks to put a big draft board together around the Lamar Jackson-inspired team. So I do think the Jets are in because of that. And I absolutely agreed. I agreed with when you said it yesterday. I agreed with it today that the Indianapolis Colts have got to be in on this as well. The Colts sitting at 4 are effectively drafting Anthony Richardson. I like Will Levis. I'm very intrigued by Will Levis. I will be following the career of Will Levis with great intrigue, predominantly because I think football is better when you have good characters, and I think he is one of them. But if you gave me the choice between Levis and Richardson, I'm taking Richardson 10 out of 10 times, right? So the Colts are in for Anthony Richardson right now. It's probably the most confident pick I have outside of 1 and 2. I'm actually more confident in Richardson at 1 than I am at 4 than I am at Stroud at 1. So if you say I can get Anthony Richardson, a guy that most of us agree has a very high ceiling athletically, but is going to need time to develop that to an NFL level. Or I can have Lamar Jackson, who's already there, even if it is going to cost me an arm and a leg and maybe one more appendage, then yeah, I'm going Lamar. So I would not be shocked to see the Colts make a serious play for Lamar Jackson. Because look, 2 first-round picks. Well, you already know one of them's going to a quarterback. And it's already going to Anthony Richardson. So you're really, effectively, you're trading 1 first-round pick for Lamar Jackson. That's it. You were already drafting a quarterback at 4. All it's going to cost you is next year's first-round pick. And that's absolutely worth it to me, right? Absolutely worth it to me. So with that being said, I am not shocked that Lamar Jackson news was as big as it was yesterday. I am not shocked that it effectively took over the broadcasting day. I signed off by telling you, enjoy the rest of your day of broadcasting with everybody talking about these tweets. It was not a surprise. It's not a surprise that it is still the lead story today. Because it is arguably, draft included, the best available quarterback in the National Football League. And then also there's these other dramatic stories built around him that have to be considered when you're having this overall conversation. So, yeah, not surprised it's that big of a story, and not surprised that we're going to be talking about it a little more today. Now, here is one more additional topic that made it interesting. I didn't know this yesterday when it dropped because we were on the air. Lamar Jackson dropped that tweet, Zoe, 3 minutes after the 2023 owners and coaches meetings started. 3 minutes after they gavelled the owners and coaches meetings, Lamar drops this tweet. And what did that lead to? That led to a particular NFL head coach named Harbaugh sitting at a podium ready to give the State of the Union for his Ravens. And he spent, Zoe, 13 and a half minutes addressing Lamar Jackson and tweets that he had not gotten to read yet before he got asked a single question about the Baltimore Ravens as an organization, as a team going into this season. Lamar got exactly what Lamar wanted more than anything else. Not only did he have all of us talking about him for an entire day, he basically worked the media to force John Harbaugh and the Ravens organization to answer 1,000 questions about him before they answered a single question about the team itself. Lamar put the spotlight on himself yesterday when it was supposed to be on the team, when it was supposed to be on the franchise. Instead, in a 20-minute presser, John Harbaugh ended up spending 13 and a half minutes talking only about Lamar Jackson. Mission bleeping accomplished.
Wow, what a move. I mean, because we were speculating yesterday why he would do it right then. And now we know exactly why, how calculated that was. If you want out of a place, you do something like that puts pressure on the coach. And that was a good move. It really was. It was a big time chess move.
All eyes on me, right? They'll tell you in media when you're a young buck, up and coming, cutting your teeth, metaphorically speaking. They will tell you, talk good about me, talk bad about me, just talk about me, right? It is why, even yesterday, I fell for it again yesterday. How many times have I told you guys? Whether it's SS or SB or any of the other big name CC, any of the other big name broadcasters whose names I won't say on the air. Not because I'm afraid of confrontation, but the exact opposite. They only have careers because they generate fake confrontation. If you don't like what they have to say, if you don't like how they're saying it, if they are cooking you with hot takes and you don't like it, the correct response is not to think you dunked on them on Twitter. That's what they want. They want to be dunked on. The correct response is no response at all. At the end of the day, when you're in a position that is public, whether it's NFL quarterback or radio host or television host or whatever else, magazine writer, book author, if you are in a position where public eyes are what make up your income, being talked about, even if it's negative, is better than not being talked about at all. And Lamar knows that. So Lamar waited and waited. Why would he wait 25 days to announce he asked for a trade? Very simple. You wait until the iron is hot. You wait until the moment. You wait until the moment that you're going to get the most interaction. And what moment was better for Lamar than when his head coach was at a podium about to discuss the football team? You can't have an NFL discussion without it starting with the quarterback. So how does Lamar make that happen? Wait until the discussion has already started and then throw your name in there. It's a brilliant strategy. I'll tell you this. For a guy that has had dozens of segments on national television dedicated to, should this guy represent himself? Should he get an agent? I got to tell you straight up, he's doing a hell of a job keeping his name in the news. Hell of a job keeping his name in the news. All right, we're going to talk more about that because there was an NFL owner yesterday who said that he got told by a trusted authority that Lamar Jackson wanted to move to his team. Who was the authority? Who's the team? I'll tell you that coming up. Also coming up on the show today, the South Carolina Gamecock lady basketball program is on its way to yet another Final Four. They had a very interesting first half yesterday against Maryland, but then dogged them in the second half. So how does that set up going up against Iowa and Caitlin Clark, maybe the most prolific shooter in the history of college basketball on the women's side? I'll break that down for you coming up later on in the show. Is college basketball ruined? One of my favorite broadcasters said something terrible is about to happen. Who is it? Well, I just told you, kind of. But I will address them because I think they're dead wrong, and I think I've got the evidence to prove it. All that and more coming up on today's edition of The Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, got a live read. Stay right there. We will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to talk to you about the Gables on Pelham. If you
I can.
I know.
I just did.
All right. What is up, everybody on the stream? Good morning. No, Luke, we are staying for right now. Right, Sean? We ain't going nowhere. That is our sister station, WORD, that changed frequencies today. James says that applies to both sports and politics. Some turd on Politico cuts heel promos and gets ratioed. He still wins. Yeah, that's literally the name of our game, right? Even if you're retweeting us because you're angry at the take, long as you're putting our name in front of other people, it gets more followers. That's the game for us. And that is why those of us who aren't hot take artists can have a tough time in this environment. That is why I ask you guys so many times, if you like the show, spread the word. Because it's hard sometimes for us to get those numbers when we're not putting up ratioable takes.
Now, CBS Sports Radio. On your radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville, 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg. Listen on your phone, download the Odyssey app, and search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound, but you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. There's one more thing. And on your computer at
TheFanUpstate.com.
Get you the game on the Rob Brown Show.
Only on The Fan.
The Fan
Upstate.
Let me address something real quick that I saw. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give him credit. Tim Frisbee say the other day. He said, why is it when we talk about this women's tournament, why is it that all the focus is on Caitlin Clark in Iowa? Why are we not talking more about a very dominant and undefeated still South Carolina Gamecock program that knocked off the Turtle yesterday and earned a consecutive Final Four trip as they look to defend their national championship? And there is a reason for that. For the past, I don't know, ever, it has felt like the UConn Huskies have dominated women's college basketball. Gino Auriemma, who, by the way, I found out yesterday, on Zoom calls, you know how on Zoom call, instead of going live on cam, you can use like a little avatar, like a little picture of yourself? Gino Auriemma uses an avatar of the grandfather from Up. Remember the movie Up?
So he's saying he's a grumpy old man. Yeah.
Look at a picture of Gino Auriemma and tell me it's not a perfect usage of avatar. It's very well done. Anyway, for years, women's college basketball was dominated by the UConn Huskies. Now, it is dominated by the South Carolina Gamecocks under Dawn Staley. How dominated, do you ask? About 4 days ago, leading up to the regional semifinals, which LSU is here in town or was here in town playing in, their head coach, Kim Mulkey. Remember, LSU South Carolina a couple of weeks ago in the SEC's regular season was touted as a potential national championship matchup. And by the way, spoiler alert, it's gonna be. But they talked to Kim Mulkey, the head coach of the LSU Tigers, one of the most, shall we say, flamboyant characters in the game. And she said, this is the head coach of a team who's in the Final Four now. She said that South Carolina is about to win another national championship. She also said it's South Carolina and then everybody else. That includes her team, which is a Final Four participant at this point. Now, I have told you guys, we had a conversation about it last week. There are two things that draw us to sports: talent and drama. Those are the two things. When you talk about successful sports talk radio shows, They do not feature guys that are heavy on analytics. Hey, there's a place for it in those shows. But the two types of shows that succeed follow the two things that make sports good: talent and drama. You talk about the best players in the game, and you talk about the drama of the game. Well, when you have one of only 3 teams in the country that still stand between the University of South Carolina and another national championship, coming out and saying it's them versus everybody else. When you have the head coach of one of only 3 teams standing between Don Staley, Aaliyah Boston, and another natty saying they're going to win the natty, drama goes away. There's no drama anymore, right? When you feel like it is a predetermined outcome, that drama goes away. So if you are the media, and by the media, I specifically mean the television companies that rely on sports ratings to make money, you have to do what you can to increase drama. And so in order to make it appear, and by the way, I think South Carolina, Iowa could be really interesting because Iowa plays an outside-in game, and South Carolina's dominance is on the inside, specifically defensively. We saw yesterday, Maryland at one point was up, 6 early on South Carolina and held a lead for a little while.
Yeah, but I mean,
it was early in the game.
Yeah, and South Carolina wasn't playing like they normally do either.
I'm not disagreeing, but I think that was because of the frantic and chaotic pace that the Turtle played with, a pace that they were never going to be able to keep up for 4 quarters. But for the first 2 quarters, they absolutely kept that pace up, and South Carolina didn't have an answer for a full court press based on chaos. We'll come back to that. What you are trying to do, if you are trying to get as many eyeballs as you can on a sport that frequently draws fewer than 1 million people to its championship event, is you've got to create some level of drama. You've got to create a reason where it doesn't feel like South Carolina winning a title is an inevitable conclusion. How do you do that? You hit on the strongest parts of other teams. There is not a stronger player in the country, with the exception of maybe Aaliyah Boston, than Caitlin Clark, a woman who put up a 41-point triple-double in the Elite Eight. Never been done before in an NCAA March Madness tournament. 41-point triple-double. That's ridiculous, dude. That's a redonkulous number. I'm only saying these words because the boss said we were hip this morning, and I'm sticking with the motif, all right?
You need to watch yourself.
I'm hip, dude. What do you want? I'm down with the lingo, you jive turkey. Anyway.
I'm surprised you even knew what jive turkey was.
Yeah, man.
So
I watched Airplane as a kid.
Okay. All right.
Do you speak jive? Excuse me, I speak jive. It's one of the greatest scenes of all time. Anyway.
He might be listening.
That's fine.
So I
assume he'll get a chuckle out of that. If not, it's been nice working with you.
Yeah, well.
Caitlin Clark is a certified G and a bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. She can go. And she, having another 41-point triple-double, is the only way I was getting by South Carolina. If she doesn't have another 40-point triple-double, does South Carolina feel threatened by the Hawkeyes? All due respect to the Hawkeyes, no. South Carolina's that good. And if they get by Iowa, and let's say LSU's waiting for them and not Virginia Tech on the other side, the newcomers to the Final Four. First Final Four in Blacksburg history. If LSU's on the other hand, you've got to talk about Angel. Why? Because South Carolina beat the dog snot up out of LSU in the regular season just a few weeks back. And while a victory earlier in the season does not guarantee a victory later in the season, it certainly does make it feel less compelling. So right now, it feels like the biggest hurdle standing between Dawn and another trophy is what? Caitlin Clark in Iowa. Caitlin Clark is getting talked about because she deserves to be talked about. A 41-point triple-double in the Elite Eight of a March Madness tournament is history. It's never been done before. And on top of that, for a game that is well respected but still struggles to get an audience, let's call a spade here, you need superstars. Because what did I say, aside from drama, is the other thing that keeps us coming back for more when it comes to sports? Seeing people do things athletically that we cannot. And when it comes to the women's game, Caitlin Clark, up through the regional final of the March Madness tournament, has done something that no other college basketball player has ever done, a 40-point triple-double in a March tournament, right? So by talking up Caitlin Clark and not talking about the Gamecocks, although that's not true, they are. But in talking up Caitlin Clark, you're accomplishing two things. Number one, you are propping up one of the greatest women's college basketball players, certainly of this generation, maybe of all time. Caitlin Clark deserves her name mentioned alongside Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Candace Parker. She's in that group. She's in that elite group. And we as fans want to talk about elite players, right? That is why, despite the drama, you have gotten more segments about Aaron Rodgers than Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo was in an interesting place with the 49ers. That is why you know the name of the 7th round draft pick of the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. Because he came in as Mr. Irrelevant and played at an elite level for them last year, to the point that yesterday the 49ers GM came out and said that as of today, Brock Purdy's the starter for week 1 because he played at an elite level. We talk about elite players and elite playmakers. Caitlin Clark is in the elite player category. So we talk about the best of the best. But in talking about Caitlin Clark, the best of the best, you create what might be the only drama remaining. You know what the NCAA wishes today? They wish they would have seeded Iowa on the other side of the bracket. They wish they would have seeded Iowa on the other side of the bracket because an Iowa-South Carolina championship game is infinitely more interesting than in South Carolina LSU natty.
Do you care if it's interesting? If it's your team or a team you pull for, do you care if it's interesting? Would you rather be interesting or the team that looks like the beginnings of a dynasty being dominant like they have been all year? They're undefeated for a reason. I
mean, it's fun when your team's a dynasty, right? It's although the losses are more painful, it's more fun when you're a dynasty. But from the perspective of this conversation, let me ask you the question on the flip side, Lonzo. Forget if you're a fan. If you're a television programming director and you're trying to get eyeballs on a television, do you want a game where a dynastic South Carolina comes up against an LSU team that they beat by 33 weeks ago and it didn't look particularly close? Or would you rather a national championship that features an Iowa team the Gamecocks haven't played yet, an Iowa team that runs their opponents, starring Caitlin Clark, who's getting 41 and a triple-double in a game? Which one of those is more compelling for your television argument?
Obviously the other one.
Yeah.
But you're going to try to push the dethroning of the downfall of a dynasty, just like,
sure.
I mean, it all goes back to wrestling tactics. There's a major heel or face, depending on how you look at it, and someone needs to take them down because people love seeing dynasties, but they love them falling down more.
Yeah, I think the only thing America loves more than a dynastic team is watching a dynastic team lose it, right? No doubt. We didn't. A lot of America enjoyed watching Tom Brady's Patriots be great every year. More of America enjoyed watching them when they were getting their asses kicked. That's just a statement of fact, right? Yeah, Lonzo raises his hand. That's exactly right. So you can sell it the best of your ability as LSU or Virginia Tech, but probably LSU. LSU looks to step in and take the SEC crown back that they lost from South Carolina and unseat Dawn from her chair of untouchability. But that is not as compelling as Caitlin Clark can put 40 on anybody. And if she puts 40 up on the Gamecocks, maybe there's something to Iowa jumping into that slot, right? That's more compelling and has arguably the best player in women's college basketball, Caitlin Clark, at its heart. It checks all the boxes. So I understand South Carolina fans are feeling disrespected because everybody's talking about Iowa and everybody's talking about Caitlin Clark. I understand you're feeling disrespected. I'm not even going to try to tell you that it's not disrespect. I get it. But there is a reason that the television is spending time on Iowa and Caitlin Clark. It is because you have dominated women's college basketball to such an extent that any game involving you, unless you are a Gamecock, is boring, right? It's boring. The first half against Maryland yesterday was very compelling because Maryland jumped out to a lead. South Carolina took a lead very early. Maryland took it back, went on what? Didn't they go on like a 14-0 run at one point? Took the lead back, grew the lead a couple of points. And at the time, it was like, oh, damn. Like Maryland is just stunning South Carolina right now. But as I mentioned, it was because they were frantic. They were chaotic in a full court press. You can't sustain that when South Carolina has the depth off the bench they have and nobody else does. The bench won that game yesterday for the Gamecocks. And that's part of putting a championship team together is building a bench of reliable, trustworthy role players that can step in when the starters need a breather, face down a full court press, and still get it done. But when South Carolina's women play, unless you are a Gamecock fan, it's boring because they beat the hell out of everybody. So the only way to get eyes on a television at that point is to convince you that Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes have a chance because of how great she is. Now, all of a sudden, South Carolina v. Iowa is now the most interesting game remaining. South Carolina versus Iowa is now a must-watch Final Four matchup because it feels like that's the national championship. So we'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a few more things I want to get to. We'll run to a break when we come back here in just a moment from right now. There's been a heavy and fair criticism of NBA officials this year. Yesterday, a Major League Baseball official said, "Hold my beer." Talk about that when we come back and why something's got to get done, y'all. It just does. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Oh, my goodness. I watched Raw live last night. It was weird.
Okay.
I don't really watch wrestling live that much anymore.
And then you got mad when Cody came out. You got mad at what Cody said. You got mad when Sammy and KO came out to save Cody.
I get mad about it. I on one hand, I was like, I kind of wish they'd had more theatrics to that. But on the other hand, KO and Sammy just walking out and punching people is pretty much the character, right? KO doesn't do theatrics and slide-ins. He just shows up and kicks you in the face.
I thought they would hit the Usos from behind when they were walking.
That was my thought.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, why didn't they do that? But the Usos had to come out and disrupt before, make it look like Cody was going to lose that match. It kind of was a big deal, him beating the Enforcer last night because he hadn't lost. That was his first loss since he moved up to the main roster. It's been a quite a bit of the match just watching Paul Heyman's face.
I can't. Heyman's so good.
Yeah.
I have come to. I think I've come to.
By the way, we're not fighting. We're just talking wrestling.
This is just talking wrestling. I have come to, and I did last night, the realization why I have been put off by the unnecessary injection of Cody Rhodes into the Bloodline story. It is because in a story that has been remarkably complex and well written, Cody's involvement is just classic old school textbook predictable wrestling, right? Like you have had the Bloodline story, which is the best story since WrestleMania 30 and Daniel Bryan versus The Authority. And I stand by that. And then here comes blonde-haired, blue-eyed, red, white, and blue babyface who does all the things you expect Hulk Hogan to do. He beats the Enforcer with no drama involved to it at all. There was no point where you felt like Cody was in jeopardy last night. Even when the Usos came out, they just stood there. Like you didn't even get involved. There's no drama. It is pure textbook scripting, 80s gimmick wrestling.
You know what's funny?
In the midst of the great... If this was just Cody v. Roman and that was the story, it's like, fine, that's how wrestling's got to work sometimes. But you didn't need to inject it into the best story in a decade.
This is how different we are. The Daniel Bryan thing was so predictable. It was such a build up to the point where I'm like, great, they're going to put the championship on this guy because the fans demand it. I get that. But one thing that wrestling does a lot is go against what the fans want just to get that kind of heat. And if we had to pick right now who's going to win between Cody and Roman, I don't know who I'm picking yet.
That part's fair.
Because it's all built up the way you're saying it is, and you throw that swerve at the end, and he doesn't win. But they've faked the throw so many times lately. Eventually, all stables are either toppled by dissension within or by a group of heroes who band together, even though they normally wouldn't, to take down the dynasty. And either of those things could happen Sunday, or both at the same time. Or the big swerve is that Sammy's been doing bloodline business all along, and Sammy turns on everybody. There's just so many ways you could go. And if it goes according to what it looks like it is, and Cody becomes champion and the bloodline is over, how sad are you going to be? Because, it has to end eventually.
The story has to end eventually. But let's call it what it is. That story deserves a great ending.
All the things I just mentioned, all those things could happen. All those things could happen.
Surprise ending doesn't mean good ending, though.
What I'm saying is there could be dissension. There could be all those things could happen. Interference from someone outside the whole thing. It could be so many things.
The last thing I need is another person injected.
Dustin Rhodes shows up.
Dustin Rhodes Jr. Oh, Thursday's going to be so lit for Fight Club. The showcase of the Immortals. WrestleMania. Can you say WrestleMania without the growl? I don't think you can. I can't. Anyway, 11:20 Thursday morning. In fact, I'm not going to lie to you. We'll probably go long on that segment. We'll probably start it closer to 11:15 because we have got a 2-night card to break down. So you wrestling fans, Make sure you're here Thursday for Fight Club at 11:20.
And the people who don't like wrestling, you need to understand
Do it
something
anyway.
about this show is we have wrestlers on and we break news here that goes national.
Correct.
We've done it a couple times now.
Correct.
So even though you may not like it, Rob was talking about the attention, doing something well that gets that's what we do here. Wrestling gets us attention.
That's all we do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there has been a very harsh discussion about National Basketball Association officiating this year, and I think it's been fair, right? But as I said last week on the show, I think it is important that we slam refs when they get it egregiously wrong and not boy who cries wolf it by talking bad about them when they don't, right? But either way, the NBA officiating has been questionable. The NFL is having the same discussion. It seems like every major sport is having a problem with its officiating, but baseball umpires are a special breed. You know, in the NFL and the NBA, I've kind of ridden for a while with, hey, look, I'm down for technology making a game better, but I don't know how you robo-ump the NBA or the NFL. There's just too much going on, too many places, and maybe it's possible, but I don't know. At this point, just get umpires off the field in baseball. They're unnecessary, right? There's no subjective rules in baseball. It's a strike or a ball. It's a safe or an out. And then you have umpires saying, hold my beer. Let me make the dumbest ejection of the season. And we haven't even started the season. Yesterday, the Philadelphia Phillies were taking on the Blue Jays of Toronto in their penultimate spring training matchup. Phillies up 4-0. And JT Realmuto, who just got back from the World Baseball Classic, is behind the dish, taking some pitches, getting ready for Thursday's opening day. Behind him, in the sky blue shirt and mask, was Randy Rosenberg. What is the one thing I say about baseball umpires? How do I know you've done a great job, Lonzo?
Because you don't know their name.
Because I don't know who the hell you are. There is an entire category of jobs where if you do it well, I should never be able to recognize you. And umpires are at the top of the list. If you are an umpire, you know when you should be recognized? When you retire. And baseball goes, this guy gave us X amount of years of service with no complaints. Here's a Rolex. Enjoy retirement, my man. We now know the name Randy Rosenberg. Why? Because Craig Kimbrell threw a pitch. There was a ball called. He didn't like it. Realmuto reaches back to get a new ball. Now, Rosenberg, Lonzo, literally 2 pitches before, after a ball hit the dirt. In MLB, if a ball hits the dirt, the pitcher gets a fresh ball every time. 2 pitches before that. Ball hits the dirt. Kimbrell calls for a new ball. Rosenberg reaches down into his little ball bag, pulls it out, throws it to Kimbrell on the hill. 2 pitches later, ball hits the dirt. Kimbrell calls for a new ball. Realmuto, as most catchers do, puts his glove up and behind him. Not even looking at the umpire, puts his glove up and behind him. Then realizes, 2 pitches ago, he threw the ball to Kimbrell. This umpire likes to throw the ball to the pitcher himself, which is fine. Some do, some don't. Puts his glove out. And when he realizes that, he brings his catcher's mitt back in front of him. At the same time, Rosenberg's trying to drop a ball into Realmuto's glove. He goes to drop the ball. Realmuto pulls his glove back. The ball drops out of the umpire's hand to the ground. And he ejects JT Realmuto from the game.
Which he should have done. You got to know the rules. You got to know the rules. I watched it. I'm not so sure he didn't pull the glove away on purpose.
He wasn't even looking at it.
Yeah. Have you ever done anything without looking? Yeah,
so this is not your best troll work.
I'm not trolling. I'm
I'm
not trolling. I think you get too angry, obsessed even with umpires, referees, and things like that.
D+.
There are rules. The rules were not abided by. He made the umpire look foolish. Have you ever been in a place of power, Rob?
D-.
You ever been in a place of power?
You're not.
It's not going to work because the only thing that's going to stop this is that we're almost out of time.
Randy Rosenberg needs to be fired yesterday for that.
Hero work.
Give me Skynet now. Back after this for hour 2 of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
I think there are some things you think I just react a certain way, like I didn't actually see it, which I did.
There's no way you saw that
I didn't.
and then stuck with that take.
Absolutely.
Can't.
I mean, you know what? How many times have people done so? Well, I didn't mean to. Okay. All right. That stinks for you. Take a walk, take a shower.
Oh, no. I need a breather. I need fresh air. Can't handle this.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month.
I just want to point out, if I were doing this to troll, no one can grade my trolldom because I'm above them. That's how that
There
works.
shouldn't be that many ideas, but I mean, let me ask Lonzo real quick. Hang on a second. Do you know what the legal ID for the new 98.9 WRD is supposed to be at 10 o'clock? It's not the news intro. It's just
No, because Mark did all that.
Mark's not answering his phone.
Okay. I had nothing to do with any of that stuff. Mark did everything. So I can't. I wish that I could answer.
Okay. Fair enough.
Is this? Is Tim concerned about it, or is
Yeah,
it?
it's text out the legal ID that he's got to play or schedule.
Well, we're not playing Fox. We're playing news. So it would.
But he says it's not live news.
So this is. Hold on. Sorry about that. I hate when I can't fix something. I think I did just fix it if they listen to me, though. Usability studies and detailed audits of site experience, digital assets, and marketing. The results and integrated.
That is correct, Joey B. 100% correct.
You guys are all haters of authority. I have noticed that.
Yes.
If anarchy reigned, you would be
No.
you would
No.
be holding the torches and incendiary,
No.
whatever would
No. You make a
accelerate
mistake.
that.
We are not anti-authority. We are anti-misuse and abuse of authority.
And who judges that?
Us. The people
who
over
makes
whom authority
who
is
makes you?
exerted.
Let me use a popular word on the station. Who makes you the arbiter of that sort of thing?
Arbiter's a great word. And one of the greatest bad guy villains turned good guys of all time, the Arbiter. But the answer is authority is distributed at the consent of the governed. I believe we have an entire national philosophy based on
that. Depends on what country you're in.
What country are we in?
Some would say they're not real sure right now, but that's a totally different
Well, those people
argument.
are overly dramatic. You're not welcome.
I'll say we'll see about that when we're using another currency. But anyway. I hate this. I should run over there, but I can't. I don't have time to fix it. Chris was just in there. There's a problem over there, and They can't get a hold of anybody else, but oh well. No.
Do.
Why? Why log me out in the middle of this? It's so stupid.
Our new dose of the Rob Brown Show starts now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages. The big show is on your radio right now. I am Rob Brown, the great one Lonzo at the helm today. Would you like to be a part of the program? Well, do I have good news for you? I encourage it. The show, ladies and gentlemen, is better when you are on it. And you can be by right now giving us a buzz at 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663. You can also text us on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we'll read them on the air. Like the texter who says, Rob, ever heard of Jim Joyce? Yes, I have. And I raise you Angel Hernandez, a man so bad at his job that he single-handedly has nearly turned me against unions as a whole. Because if they protect Angel Hernandez and his job performance, how could they be good? Texas says, hey, Rob, I missed yesterday because I was sick, so I may have missed it, but did Lonzo get the mullet? No, he did not. We tried. I tried to help Lonzo recapture his glory days, but he wouldn't go for it. He wouldn't go for it yet.
It's not happening.
362 days from now, Lonzo will get another haircut, and we will try again.
Maybe.
We will try.
Your brother is now my inspiration, and now I'm thinking I want to go as long as he goes without getting a haircut.
Texter says, as a Georgia fan, we were talking about dynasties, about South Carolina, about creating drama and hyping up the best players in the game to try to create that drama. Okay, real quick, Zoe, I need you to. Shefty looks tired. They got Shefty on ESPN, and the old under the eye bags are there.
It's what happens when you spend a lot of time with your overlords.
Oh man!
And he's in a room full of the owners where he gets all of his news from, so they're all talking to him at once, and so he wants to make sure he pleases them all, and that will that will cause you to have bags under your eyes.
Shefty looks exhausted. All right, we were talking about dynasties. Saw a South Carolina fan ask the other day, why is all the talk about Caitlin Clark? Why is it all about Iowa? Why is it all about LSU? And I gave you the reason. Because South Carolina games are boring. In the best possible way if you're a Gamecock. In the worst possible way for everybody else. Everybody else thinks they're boring because you kick the hell out of everybody, right? So how do you drum up interest in the women's Final Four? An event that, despite really solid competition every year, just doesn't turn a fraction of the numbers the men's game does. You hype up the best players that they have, and you hype up the fall of a dynasty. In the Gamecocks of South Carolina, Caitlin Clark right now is the only player still standing who does that. Texter says, as a Georgia fan, I don't care. I knew Georgia was going to smoke TCU. I'll bet USC feels the same. You know who else feels the same? Pretty much everybody. Lonzo, I want you to go back to early February. How many people picked TCU? Correct. Nobody.
Yeah, the real national championship game had already been played.
It's the same scenario.
Yeah, Georgia, Ohio State, that was a national championship game.
In retrospect, even before the playoffs started, it felt like Georgia v. Ohio State was the national championship. And despite TCU with a phenomenal upset win in the semis, it just never felt like I wanted TCU to be competitive. So what did we do? We hyped up Max Duggan, right? Heisman finalist, maybe the best QB standing. Except where's Max Duggan about to get drafted? 4th round, right?
Who's Max Duggan?
Right. But we had to hype that guy up so that Georgia TCU felt like there was some drama, but there wasn't. It feels the same way. If South Carolina's going down, it's in the Final Four against the Hawkeyes. It's not in the Natty against Vatek or LSU. It's in the semis. I was the only team that's got the capability to do it, and they can only do it if Caitlin Clark has another 41-point triple-double. That's why they're getting talked about and South Carolina's not. Joey B says, trump card all-time bad umpiring. Eric Gregg single-handedly cost Atlanta the NL pennant in 97. A year, by the way, that Atlanta coulda, shoulda, woulda won a second World Series at the time.
There's one thing that I don't understand, and maybe this makes me less of a sports fan. I don't remember stuff like that. I don't remember umpires or referees or things like that. Maybe it's because when you hear me say it's a part of the game, I actually believe that, to the point where, even though you have dubbed me Colonel Grudge, aptly, by the way, when it comes to some things, but when it comes to that, I just consider it part of the game, and I don't remember. You guys will remember this stuff when you're like 99.
1997 NLCS, Eric Gregg was umpiring a game between the Braves and the Marlins, and Eric Gregg had a strike zone that was about 2.5 baseballs wider than the plate and only on the left-hand side of the plate.
What year was that?
97. Livian Hernandez was the pitcher for the Marlins. Livian Hernandez recorded his career high strikeout in that game, 15 Ks against the Braves. It was a plate that favored the left-handed thrower and a right-handed batter, which benefited the Marlins in both cases. It was voted upon, according to ESPN, it was voted upon by Baseball America as the 3rd worst umpiring performance of the 1975 through 2000 era. Game 5 of the 97 NLCS is now known as the Eric Gregg game, and he was never selected for postseason umpiring by baseball again.
All right, so it's another reason why baseball is where it is. I mean, you're voting on the worst. What was the worst call of this season? Are you kidding me? Baseball guy. That's the guy who's doing all this. You remember back in 1995? I mean,
97.
Well, I'm sure something happened in 95 also that guy kept track of. Dude, that's kind of weird that who was the worst of, I mean, are we doing the worst takes of radio this last year? Because we can come up with some that happened right here on this station. We're not going to, but we could. I mean, why do you keep track of that stuff? That's
when your team gets shafted from an NLCS and a trip to the World Series, it never gets let go of. You want to talk about NFC championship games?
I was waiting. It took a while.
Because I'll never let go of it. I will be on my deathbed And they'll be like, Rob Brown, what were your biggest regrets in life? And I'll be like, I didn't talk to the high school cheerleader I had a crush on. I didn't go to Old Yankee Stadium before they destroyed it. And the Saints should have had one more Super Bowl. That's it. That's the list.
By the way, the Saints could have another Super Bowl.
Derek Carr, baby, let's go.
There you go.
Derek Carr about to light the league on fire, son. Y'all all going to be worshiping at the altar of Derek Carr.
Best quarterback in the NFC South presently.
Best quarterback in the NFL. Who the hell wants Aaron Rodgers when you can have Derek Carr? Derek Carr greater than Lamar. Watch.
Could be, because Lamar may not be playing. So, I mean,
Dan the Superman man says Alonzo should only talk in baseball guy voice from now on.
No, it's one of those things where, do you know who I am? I don't do requests, man.
You're like the Daniel Day-Lewis of baseball nerd.
You know what? When I do that voice, there's a picture of someone in my mind. I see that guy. And no, it's no one that I know. I mean, I see that guy.
It's a real life version of comic book guy from The Simpsons.
No, it's not that guy who people compare me to, and that's just ridiculous.
Texter said the Marlins ended up winning the 97 series. That's why Rob remembers that moment. The Braves should have been there. The Braves got one World Series out of what is widely considered to be one of the greatest dynasties of all time. The Braves got one.
How many championships do you want, Rob?
Lonzo, if your team is dominant for 10 consecutive seasons and they walk away with one, if Patrick Mahomes' career was over and the Chiefs won one Super Bowl, you would go, so glad we won that Super Bowl. We were good enough. We should have won more. No reason not to have won more. I say that about Sean Payton in the Breeze era.
I'm grateful for the two we have won.
Exactly.
Three overall, but the two that I've seen in my lifetime. Yeah, I'm grateful for that. I am. But they could have been in another Super Bowl, but someone jumped off sides. Do I begrudge that person? No. I mean, it's part of the game.
But if they didn't and the ref called it, you would begrudge the ref?
No, and I wouldn't know the ref's name. Not even after it happened, I wouldn't know the ref. I think it's worse in baseball than it is football. And basketball, especially college basketball to a certain degree, especially in this area, I don't remember the guy's name because I don't care that much, but I know that there was a guy in this area that everyone absolutely hated who was a ref for a lot of ACC games. I want to direct my passion somewhere else.
I will go to the grave cursing the name Bill Vinovich until I literally die. All right. And by the way, should I meet an untimely demise, anyone, end my eulogy with, and oh, by the way, bleep Bill Vinovich.
You just carry on my legacy of hate.
Yep.
Someone pick up this mantle and continue.
Carry the torch of raw, unbridled hatred towards Bill Vinovich into the future. Thus is my decree. We are here to celebrate the life of Rob Brown, brother, son, friend, host, who was amongst us for so many years. Positive, optimistic, romantic, lovable. With his final breath, he asked me to share with you these sentiments. Bleep Bill Vinovich. Thank you for coming. Have a nice day.
Just want to, I want to say this, that when my radio career started, I think it was in 97, 98. And guess what I was doing?
Not delivering your own fake eulogy.
No, I was running Braves games.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, so right around that time when all this happened, I was running, and I needed the Braves to do well and continue. So I actually got hours so I could work. So I rooted for the Braves, even though I wasn't into baseball. There was, I remember a July 4th or around there in downtown running a Braves game as the fireworks were going off as I was on the 10th floor downtown Greenville. It's a cool memory. You know what I don't remember? Any umpires' names. I don't remember.
Well, then they must have done an okay job to you, not to me. Ladies and gentlemen.
And no, Luke, that's not his NPR voice. Trust me.
Wait. I just realized something. Speaking of the National Football League, I just realized something. I don't care if it's on trending topics.
It's not now.
I don't care, because I will bring it up every segment from now until the end of the show.
Well, maybe you should double up on it since you missed some time talking about it,
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to wish you all the very happiest of 28-3. It is 3:28, ladies and gentlemen. A day of celebration for Tom Brady's finest hour. The day that the Patriots found themselves 25 points in the hole to the Atlanta Falcons and came back to destroy the hopes and dreams of Falcons fans everywhere. Falcons fans, Patriots fans, Brady fans, all of you. Allow me to wish you the happiest of 328 days. All right? A day. You know what? Also, I'm going to add one more to the eulogy. With his dying breath, he wished us to express these sentiments to you. First, bleep Bill Vinovich. And lastly, 28-3. Thank you all for coming to this celebration of life. Rob provided each of you with a cold bottle of Jägermeister as a parting gift. That's how it's going. That's how it's going, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a break. When we come back in just a minute, I did not get to this yesterday because I really, Charles Barkley is my favorite on-air personality. The guy makes me laugh more than anybody else on television, and I appreciate it.
You're not your favorite on-air personality?
Dude, I'm not even my favorite on-air personality in this market.
Okay.
I'm not my favorite on-air personality on this show. Charles Barkley is one of my favorite personalities. And Charles had a take that I thought, you know what? Despite the fact that Charles is funny most of the time, let me kick this around for a little bit. And I did. And I came to the conclusion that I'm more certain of today than I was yesterday. Chuck is very wrong about something. And I'll prove it when we come back on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. I wondered if my favorite two Falcons fans, Brandon and Skrilla, were going to be here. Brandon is, and Skrilla is, who said, bleep you, Saints fan Roberto. I love you guys. You know that. You know this, man. All right, guys, got to grab some Gatorade from the office. Be right back. All right, dudes and dudettes, we're back.
And they may be able to help your business too. There's no upfront charge either.
Brandon, you jerk. What do Falcons do? Choke primarily, I think. I could be wrong. I love you, Brandon. And Skrilla. What a life getting to talk boat about Falcons on a broad spectrum and get paid for it. And the poor Dirty Birds still listen. It's because they love me. They know it's smack talk out of love and nothing else.
You're starting to speak another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well,
I think you're turning your head just so it looks like you have the sun shining behind one side of your face.
Well, the problem is the perfect place for this light would be right where the microphone is. I talked our engineering staff into getting me one of those fancy millennial ring lights, and it works really well for the streams purposes. But I can't put it exactly where it needs to be for my own vanity. Sunday, ESPN showing the Pickleball Slam Championships.
It's not too late to get into it.
I got to
Being a
tell you,
pickleball guy.
I am so interested in playing pickleball. I'm not even going to lie. I really am. By the way, it is 328 day. It's also Derek Carr's birthday. Slated to be a Falcon killer from birth. His destiny has come.
Can you use a different stand?
I mean, I could theoretically
You could
probably
lay that down.
rig
and
one
turn
up.
that up.
The only problem is what I don't want is a horror movie underlight.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then Tom Brady emerged from the shadows.
No!
Yeah, from what I understand, Trey, Atlanta Stadium provides one of, if the not best, fan experiences in the NFL. The only problem, of course, with going to the Falcons home stadium is you got to watch the Falcons.
I saw that one coming.
Still taking it. All right, ladies. One. You had like 4 yesterday.
Yeah,
so-
I realize I'm going to lose this week,
yeah.
but it's Tuesday. You never
would
know.
This would be like a 28-3 collapse if I lose this week.
If you want to compare it to something, yeah, I probably would.
Can you grab me the Charles Barkley clip, if you don't mind, please, and thank you. Great one. Chuck Barkley, probably my favorite sports personality, figurehead, whatever you want to call him, on television right now. I have told you, I can't tell you how many times, that Inside the NBA on TNT is the best sports studio show in existence right now. And there's a few I genuinely love. But Inside the NBA with Chuck, Shaq, Ernie, and the gang is just the best thing going right now. And Chuck Barkley is a big part of the reason why. Because Chuck Barkley just has zero blanks to give when he's on TV. And no one is safe. But part of being a good human being, I think, is recognizing that your heroes have flaws and your villains have redeeming qualities. There is something to be loved in everyone and something to be disliked in everyone. Now, that being said, what Charles Barkley is about to say here.
Myself, what a wonderful world.
What a wonderful world. I got an okay, Louis.
That's not bad.
It's an okay, Louis, if I really try. Anyway, Chuck was on 60 Minutes earlier this week. Did a full expose, as they call it. And Chuck said something about NIL, specifically in regards to college basketball. Now, Chuck's a big college basketball guy, an Auburn star. He has carried water for college basketball for a very long time, and that continues. But Chuck had a take on the NIL that I found interesting, especially considering the timing of it dropping. Here is Charles Barkley's thoughts on name, image, and likeness rules in college basketball. He said with great anticipation. Okay. I don't even know where to start with the problems I have with that clip. I don't know where to start. I'll start with the 60 Minutes journalist who put this piece together. Now, if it was Charles Barkley that called it a Wild West, then you quote him and you attribute that quote to him. But the journalist in question, and granted, is not acting in the concept of a pure journalist. But he's not acting as a pure editorialist either. In fact, he should not be, considering the expose is about Chuck, not him, should not be offering any editorial commentary at all, except as potentially an addendum at the end of the story. So for him to call it a Wild West, I think puts a gray tint to a story that isn't there, right? It's the same as any other political talking head who takes a story and then goes, and this is just an affront to the American people. It's like, yeah, maybe to you. Maybe this is an affront to you, but it's not to the American people. There's a lot of people who don't have a problem with this thing or whatever the case might be, yeah? But I'll set that aside and just focus on Chuck. Chuck said a couple of things. Number one, he said, we can't pay all these players. Well, Chuck, I'll start with, I need you to tell me who we is, first and foremost.
I think he just did. I think he just did. Alumni and people who put money into NIL probably includes him. You talk about what a big supporter he is of Auburn.
Guy.
Yeah. He may not be T-Boone Pickens type thing or the dude up in Seattle, but still.
T-Boone!
Yes, but still, he's probably putting some cash down for that university.
So if he's including we as Chuck in this group, I mean, Chuck, you need to define some terms here, my guy. Step one of having any logical and rational discussion is defining the terms you use. I don't care what you're talking about. Because if you're not using the same definitions for the same terms, the conversation can't go anywhere. So when he says we, does he mean the boosters? Does he mean just college basketball as an environment? Second off, in saying we can't pay all these players, Chuck, most people are not arguing that every basketball player should be paid. The argument has been, and remains, it is a name, image, and likeness. You are not paying players to play basketball. You are paying players to take the name, image, and likeness weight that they build and attach it to things. It happens to be that most of them have gotten famous because of playing basketball, but you are not paying them to play basketball. My clients that I endorse on this show are not paying me to do sports talk radio, right? I am not getting paid by a client to do this segment. What I am getting paid for is to do my segment in a way that people listen to this show and then go, based on the fact that you are listening to me because I'm talking basketball and I have your attention in your eyes, then also say, go buy a car from Bob's Used Cars. I like Bob. He's a good guy. And that's what these players are being paid to do. Then he said, we're creating a situation where only 25 schools are going to be able to compete. Really? Because we're 2 years deep in the NIL now, right? We are in the third season where NIL is legal. Miami, San Diego State, UConn, and FAU is your Final Four. No Carolina, no Kansas, no Indiana, no Duke, no UCLA, no traditional powerhouses are here. None of them. Miami is probably the closest you're going to get in terms of, they're here because of NIL. I mean, I guess maybe you could argue that UConn is a blue blood, but I would argue that name gets carried by the women's program, not the men's. The men's have had some very good teams. But if I ask you to name me the 5 blue bloods of college basketball, I don't think UConn's making that cut. You think FAU has got heavy NIL dollars rolling through it? You think the Florida Atlantic Owls are a dominant force in the college basketball NIL landscape? What about the Aztecs of San Diego State University?
All right, you're saying all that, and that's, I mean, there's money everywhere, dude. I just depends on how much money we're talking about. Locally in all those places, there's plenty of money to be had for those athletes. I mean, it's not like $1 million contract, but there's money there.
Let's say that's true. I will agree with you. Let's say FAU, the Owls of Florida Atlantic University, have got significantly deeper booster pockets than we think they do. Does that, by definition, not prove what Chuck just said as incorrect? Right? Because he said there's going to be 25 schools that dominate the landscape. And they're going to be the schools that can afford to pay the players. And I'm sure he's looking at the Bamas. I'm sure he's looking at the Carolinas, the Dukes, the Kansases. He's looking at the Blue Bloods, right?
See,
FAU doesn't fit that model, which means Chuck is wrong.
I'm going to take a different stance on this, which might surprise you. I think the NIL is great for college basketball. And here's the reason why, because you're putting money in somewhere where the guys can't go, I got to get out of here. I only have to play 1 year. Then I can go to the NBA where I can make money. Suddenly you can make money in college basketball. So maybe that guy who was going to jump to the NBA wasn't sure he was going to actually make a team, but knows he's going to get paid where he is in college, will stay another year. And if he does that, that team just got better. So I think where I don't like NIL, you're never going to convince me it's not paying the players, because it is. I think it can help college basketball. I know it's weird, but I think it can help college basketball because you're going to get those fringe kids who thought the only way that they're going to be able to survive money-wise was to try the NBA or the G League. Now they can stay in college basketball and make at least more money than they would in the G League. So that means players come back, players stay where they normally jump. Suddenly a team has some people back the next year. They're not having to rebuild with another set of freshmen. And suddenly college basketball goes back to being, kind of good again. So I think NIL in college basketball is a good thing.
I will start with this. I like that take because, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but part of what you're saying here is that not only would college be able to retain some of the better players at its ranks.
The best ones are still jumping, but there are some
the best of the best.
There are some that are on the edge because they need money and they think that's the only thing they can do.
To guarantee it.
Those guys don't have to go anywhere now.
That's fair. The second thing I think it does, and I think this Final Four proves it. My man Diddy just hit me with a text saying the exact same thing. Parity in college athletics is the best that it's ever been. Now, you're still going to have your dominant forces. Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, they're still going to be up there. But we have more parity in college athletics than we've ever had before. And certainly in basketball, which is what Chuck was talking about here. In what other year? Here you go. Here's a fun Rob Brown Show home edition trivia question. In the history of the modern era of men's March Madness, how many March Madness tournaments have 0 of the 1 seeds made it to the Final Four? I'll give you 3 seconds to write down your answer. You can take a stab at it if you want. So how many tournaments?
1.
It has never happened before.
Right. This one. Right. This one.
Until now.
Yeah. So that would be 1.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's why I was saying 1.
In the modern era of the NCAA men's March Madness basketball tournament, there have been exactly 0 tournaments until this year where none of the 1 seeds made it to the Final Four. It's never happened before. We've had a couple of years where 1 has made it, a handful more where 2 have made it. Never happened where 0 of them made it until this year. We have a 5 seed. We have a 5 seed. We have a 4 seed. And we have a 9 seed in the Final Four. The thing that guys like Chuck don't like is that teams like Auburn, schools like Auburn, Kansas, Carolina, Duke, etc. And this is, by the way, I believe in my heart, this is why you are seeing an exodus of old head coaches. Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams. This is why you're seeing an exodus of old hat coaches. It is because they have come to the correct realization that you can't just walk into a high school, set down that baby blue hat with the UNC logo on it, and go, we want you at Carolina, therefore you're a heel. You can't walk into a high school, set down that deep blue D on the desk and go, we want you at Duke, therefore you're a Blue Devil. We want you at Kansas, therefore you're a Jayhawk. We want you at UCLA, therefore you are a Bruin. You know what you have to do now? You've got to convince the kids that coming to your school is the best thing for them. It is not just a matter of it's the best school to come to because you're going to win a tournament and we're going to send you to the league. No. There is parity everywhere, and you have now got to prove on top of all of that parity where anybody can win a title. Again, we got 100 brackets in the Rob Brown Show Bracket Challenge. The only person with a championship team still eligible in their brackets, Diddy. He's the only one. Everybody else's national championship pick got bounced. That is the definition of parity. Parity, not Parody, like Chuck Barkley wants you to believe. Chuck can say all he wants, so it's a travesty. It's ruining college basketball. No, it's not. This tournament, even if it's going to lose some viewership because you don't have a traditional blue blood in there, this tournament has been the best tournament in a while. From Furman's win over Virginia.
I'm sorry. It's going to lose viewership because nobody has any money invested in it anymore.
Sure.
Because everybody
Sure.
lost.
Nobody's bracket's alive. Diddy's the only one that can still win a title, and his team's got to win 2 more to do it. If you are watching just because you want to see if your national championship pick in your bracket wins it, then no, you're not watching this. But I got news for you. You're not a college basketball fan. You're just a fan of low-level gambling, which is fine. I do a whole damn radio show based on that. I support your decision. But you're not a basketball fan. As basketball fans go, this tournament, from Furman's win to Virginia to FAU's win over Kansas State, has been the most parity-filled and therefore, in my opinion, best tournament in recent memory. We've had some tournaments that have produced some UCLA-Gonzaga dramatic games in the past. Marquette knocking down game winners years ago. But in terms of top-to-bottom goodness, this tournament's been the best. And we're in the 3rd NIL season, Chuck. 3 years for NIL to ruin college basketball. And instead, it's given us the most entertaining tournament, non-bracket aligned, that we have had in recent memory. And I think there's something to be said for that. I love Chuck. I will listen to Chuck every time he's on TV. Dude is the best. Dude is the best. But he's wrong here. NIL is not a travesty that ruined college basketball. If anything, NIL just gave us the best, most parity-filled tournament we've had as far back as I can remember. And granted, my memory sucks, so I can't remember every single tournament since I was a children. But in my adult memory, this is the most entertaining tournament we've had so far, from start to finish. And it continues this weekend for the Final Four. I don't know what else there is to say about it. It's been great. So you got Chuck out there trying to convince people that NIL is bad so that those people will push for NIL to end or at least be heavily regulated. But here was what it comes down to. Chuck is mad that when Chuck got paid to go to Auburn and Shaq got paid to go to LSU, they had to do it quietly, discreetly, and under the table. Chuck couldn't go around making it rain with his stacks like players can today because they're allowed to have it. Chuck had to be discreet. When Shaq was getting paid to go to LSU, and again, I grew up an LSU fan. My family's from Louisiana. When Shaq got paid to go to LSU, Shaq couldn't roll around and flaunt it, right? Because it wasn't legal then. He's just mad about it at this point. 3 years. And in the 3rd year of NIL, we have the best tournament we have had in years. And it is because of the fact that parity has been increased with NIL and college athletics. And my question is, unless you were a fan in basketball of Carolina, Duke, Kansas, UCLA, unless you were a fan in college football of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, who thinks parity in sports is a bad thing? The NBA's Western Conference right now has the most parity it has had in playoff seedings in years. From like 6 to 13, there was a total of 2 games of difference in the standings coming down to the wire. And it is the most entertaining end to the regular season we have had in a decade and a half. Why? Parity. NIL breeds parity. That's good. Sorry, Chuck. I know some of y'all are mad because, it's so much easier for the kid. Yes. In my opinion, my philosophy, you should always want it easier for the next generation. You ever heard a parent say, I made all this money, but I still want my kids to suffer? You shouldn't. You shouldn't. You should want it to be better for the next generation, not worse. That's where Chuck falls apart. Let me take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute, wrap up the 2nd hour of the show. Got plenty more to get into. Rob Lonzo and you on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
System designed to help you spend less money.
All right, we're here, Internet. See, I'm every time I hear Wild Wild West, I go Jim West, Desperado, Rough Ride. I know they don't want none of this six gun in this brother running this Buffalo Soldier look. It's like I told you. Any damsel that's in distress, be out of that dress when she meets Jim West. That's the Wild West song that comes to my head.
So Lee was listening when I was talking about running Braves games. He's like, because Lee hired me to do that. It's like, dude, you know how old we are? He's like, yeah, we are really old for sure. Because that would have been 25, 26 years ago. That was a long time. It was so long ago, we were using carts. And if you don't know what a cart is, people, look it up. It's basically an 8-track tape.
Were you still on reel to reel when you started here?
They did it. They did have reel at that station.
Yeah.
And someone had to blade edit. Yeah, I was talking to Diesel about that the other day, about how hard it is to blade edit. And I learned how to blade edit in recording school.
Could you do it now if it came back?
I don't know if my hands would allow me to do it because they shake a little bit now. But my problem is you have to, once you do the blade editing, you got to put tape on it, but you got to put a very light bit of tape. I couldn't do that. So it was always you'd hear it go boom.
Yeah.
Because I put too much tape on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How we erased those carts, 8-track tapes, was with a magnet. There's this big magnet thing, and you would push the thing, and the magnet would activate, and you do this on the cart, and it would erase the tape. If you didn't do that, it was a problem because it would record over top of it, so you'd have two things recorded on it.
Kobe.
Diesel was showing me someone, I forget the guy's name, who did a lot of, here's what radio used to be, and showed him actually recording a commercial spot and putting it on cassette tape and giving it to the salesperson, who said, yeah, the client needs a little something else on it. It's like, then you have to record the whole thing over again because you couldn't go back and edit.
None of y'all told me that Auto Trader has millions of new and used cars that I can shop from home. I thought we were friends. I put smiles on your face, but I'm not smiling. No one told me that with Auto Trader, a dealer can deliver cars to my home, or that I could shop by price on Auto Trader. No one. Consider this friendship that you just learned officially over. Finally, it's easy. Auto Trader.
From the Ingalls Market Studio, the
Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
always live from the Free Odyssey app. CBS Sports Radio. Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey
Wrapping up the second hour of the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Rob Brown, the great Malonzo behind the board. As a brief note, and I'll keep it very brief here as we wrap up this hour on the Lamar Jackson story. Bob Kraft at the owners' meetings yesterday after the Lamar Jackson tweets dropped and caused an uproar in the discussion about the, I think, soon-to-be former Ravens quarterback. Bob Kraft got asked about Lamar Jackson, and Bob said that rapper Meek Mill, and of course, there's a long history there. Remember, Meek was in jail for some stuff, and Bob Kraft was one of the voices arguing for him to be released, etc. You can go research that backstory if you want. Kraft said that Meek Mill told him that Lamar Jackson told him that he would love to be a member of the New England Patriots. Now, that story was kind of like okay, all right, whatever. Yeah, it is what it is, right? Like, I'm sure Meek Mill is not threatening Adam Schefter's job security. But it turns out now we're starting to get reports from a few NFL reporters that the Patriots may be looking at bringing Lamar into New England. Mac Jones' time as the starting quarterback for the Pats could be limited, as the Patriots may be considering a potential draft, which would make sense for the Ravens, right? Like, if you're going to send him out, you want to at least get him return a serviceable quarterback, lest you go ahead and declare this year a tank for whoever the next quarterback crop is. Mac Jones would be a serviceable quarterback. There's a lot of questions about just how good Mac Jones is or can be.
Why is he not serviceable in New England?
He is serviceable in New England, but he's not Lamar Jackson, right? And if there is an owner who might be willing to sign a paycheck on a ridiculous contract, the first two that come to mind are Jerry Jones and Bob Kraft.
I wonder if Bob is like, well, Meek told me I should get him, so I'm going to.
I mean, I got to connect with the youth.
How? I mean, anyway.
We'll see. Like I said, it's nowhere near a definitive. We don't have anything from Bob Kraft saying we've started discussions. We're on the horn with Lamar's agent, Lamar. We got none of that right now, but there are reports coming out from somewhat reputable NFL sources saying that the Patriots may pick up the phone. Well, they don't have to pick up the phone. They're in the owners' meetings right now. But Bob Kraft might make his way over to the Baltimore party and say, hey, let's start this conversation. Maybe we can solve your Lamar problem and get you a serviceable quarterback in Mac Jones to carry you over for the foreseeable future. Texter said, Bob Kraft is a handy owner. You never let me down, Texters. You never let me down.
I don't get it.
Let's just hope Lamar's story
I
has.
was going to say, neither did Bob. That's what the whole thing was. Yes.
We'll see, man. We'll see. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute from right now. I got a few more things I want to get into, including the NFL once again displaying that they don't give a good gosh darn about public perception as long as you keep paying them. I'll tell you what decision they made yesterday that I found very interesting. That's coming up in the next segment. We'll break down the Gamecocks win over Maryland yesterday. That sent the women's team to the Final Four. And more. I am Rob. He's the great one. And you're listening to The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate, y'all.
I think Baron Corbin is proof that Vince is back in charge.
Based on
His is going back to that woe is me character.
somebody. All right, so first off, I'm not happy about how they've massacred my boys Mustafa Ali. All right, I hate it. I hate it. He's better than that. However, if you gave me if you gave me positively,
I kind of like,
I don't hate the tag.
Yeah.
If you gave me positively doing his best to be relentlessly optimistic around bearing down on his luck Corbin as a partnering, I'd probably watch every time they were on TV together.
You know what would make this better? If someone believed.
Bring them all. Yes.
With those.
Well, he's busy not being Uncle Howdy right now.
Well, no one's being that right now.
I know. Which is what happened to Bray. So what are we doing here?
No, either he's really sick or he's really in trouble. You notice Lashley last night suddenly is in the battle royal, and they're no longer pushing that.
I just
match.
think they're over. I think they're over Bray. I think they gave him the creative control he looked for.
Yeah, but they were
dragged on.
No, they were pushing that match for WrestleMania, and then suddenly this is gone. It's got to be, I don't know, more proof that Vince is back, and all the creative storylines that were happening through Hunter are now going to just disappear. Never in my life thought I'd be rooting for Damage Control, but man, I want them to win so bad at WrestleMania. Although, I think Bailey's getting ready to turn face. Did you see her hair? No, her hair's up in the ponytail again.
Somebody said Bailey looks like people you see at Walmart right before closing time. In her pajama pants and half-assed hair.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Évidemment. Go to Babbel.
What did we just talk about in that last segment?
That's BABBEL.com.
Oh, Mac Jones.
Our foundation issues at your home distracting you from
Say,
the important things in life.
Bob Kraft.
Travis Benson and his team at CNT Foundations can help. You're right, Gary. CNT can handle any foundation
Right,
problem.
Gary.
So our customers
We go, Gary.
can focus on what really matters. Let us handle the foundation while you handle everyday life.
What did we talk about to open the 10 o'clock hour? I read some text. Was that the whole
Umpires.
Then we end? Oh, that's right. Okay.
Are you kidding me? Gas prices are up again. Somebody has to do something. Well, someone did. That's why I use Upset.
Are you kidding me?
It's a free app that pays you back real money for every gallon of gas or diesel.
So I think I'm going to have to this evening go home and find a spot to put a snake killing weapon. You know,
Booby trap your house.
Well, no, outside the house where I know I can grab it. Yeah. I do have a machete that looks like a gladius. I don't want it to get rusted though, so maybe I put it in a weatherproof bag outside. You know, I haven't really used it for a lot, but it looks like a gladius. So I mean, you know, it's a little too heavy for a machete because you need a little lightness with the machete, but it looks like a gladius.
Beware all non-legged reptiles.
I cut the weeds and say, "Are you not entertained?" You go get that snake away stuff that you put around your house. The problem is, what if the snakes are already under the house? Then they have nowhere to go except for up in the house because they can't go across the snake away stuff, which supposedly burns them, so they stay away from it. It's like keeping out demons or something. That's a supernatural reference.
The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Fan Upstate, the audio Red Bull you need to keep your day going. I am Rob Brown, the great one, the Wizard of Wave, Lonzo on the other side of the metaphorical glass today, my co-host and executive producer. Should you wish to be a part of the radio broadcast, now is a wonderful opportunity for you to do it at 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. Text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. You can also tweet the radio broadcast. I don't know how much longer Twitter's going to be a thing, but you can tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, and at The Fan Upstate.
Everyone's been saying that for like a year now.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
Elon.
Eli, totally different guy.
Eli, totally different guy.
Eli's the new owner of MySpace.
Elon just said yesterday that they're doing away with blue check marks. If you want a blue check mark, no matter who you are, you will pay for it at this point.
Wonder if our company is going to pay for ours.
Well, I don't know because I don't have one.
Well, I do. I'm not saying I deserve one. I listen. I'm not going about that. I know some other people in the building were really upset that they didn't get one, and other people did.
I wasn't even here, and I'm mad I didn't get one.
So, they sent us a list. You put down on the list all the things you do on air,
yeah,
and then they pick if you're good enough or not. And some people weren't. I mean, that's not my,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, they're all going away unless you pay your $8 a month or whatever it is.
I don't know how much it actually helps having a blue check.
I don't think it super matters for guys like you and me, right? Like, I don't think it super matters for guys like you and me. I absolutely do for celebrities, athletes, musicians. I think it does for reporters, right? And I know that because there's a Twitter handle, Adarn Schefter. You've probably seen Adarn Schefter. Now on the Twitter font, the R and the N combine to where if you're just glancing down your Twitter TL and you come across Adarn, it looks pretty damn close to Adam Schefter, which is the Twitter handle he goes by. And Adarn Schefter has gotten some on-air people to fall for his shtick. I have seen on-air, big-time reporter personalities who are supposed to know what they're talking about quote Adarn Schefter on Twitter by accident and have to come back and acknowledge that they got by the goat troll Adarn.
So this is a thing where he's trying to eliminate bots. And if you can eliminate bots, I saw the explanation earlier from him.
Oh, he can say whatever the hell he wants.
Well, because he owns the company.
How does eliminating blue check marks get rid of bots?
Because now if you pay for them, you can't be a fake person.
You have to get verified to get one in the first place.
Yeah, you do.
You have to prove you are who you are to get one.
I just, I hear the demise of things all the time and they never really go away. And then people who say, well, I've heard Jim Rome say that too. And you've been saying it for a year. It's not going anywhere. If it was going somewhere, if it was going to die like some people thought it was, it'd already be dead.
I don't know about that.
This guy's a pretty good business guy. He's made lots and lots and lots and lots of money.
It's a little easier to do when you are born in an emerald mine.
Okay,
but we're going down the path.
Yeah, because I don't care how you got your money. You got your money. Good for you. All right, if it's ill-gotten, as far as you robbed many banks, dude. If nepotism, as far as money goes, who cares about that?
It's more the blood gem trade. But we're going down a dark path.
Okay, all right. I think you could find skeletons in everyone's closet, and when it comes down to it, people on a certain political side think Twitter is going away, and people on another is like, finally freedom. In the end, I use Twitter for breaking news. I need something so if Twitter goes away, I'll have to find something else for breaking news. If it does go away, then you were right. Congratulations.
I don't want to be right. I like Twitter.
Okay. All right. I mean,
I like yelling into the void to no one in particular. It makes me feel better. It's my therapy.
Well, and as far as the blue check goes, I don't want mine taken away. But if it gets taken away, it gets taken away. At least I had one and other people didn't. So, I mean, there's that.
Let's get to some quick stories real quick. Let me start with this one. We will spend as much time on this as you guys want. Very little or a lot. Jim Trotter is, we've talked about Adam Schefter, and Shefty took a big hit to the rep last year when it came out that most of Shefty's sources were the NFL.
The bosses.
Yeah. Shefty got in trouble because a memo came out that pointed out that Schefter sent an email that basically said to an owner, tell me how you want me to craft this story, right? Allow them to control their own public relations, which if you are a reporter, that's a bad look, right? It's great to build sources, but at the same time, your consumers need to be able to trust you to remain.
Isn't he billed kind of as a reporter though? Because isn't he?
He's an
billed,
NFL insider.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
isn't an insider kind of like an investigator, someone who goes in and finds stuff? How do you get that now? Yeah, I mean,
it's supposed to be, but I think insider gives you the connotation of, hey, you can be inside because the boss opened the door for you to come.
By the
in.
way, I'm a fan insider. You want to know what's going on in the fan?
Just hit up Zoe.
I got you right here. I'll help you out.
Right. I think insider has, from those in control of the terminology, kind of slanted it where they try to put insider on the same caliber as reporter, and they're very different, right? Very different. A reporter very frequently has to sniff out information without access. An insider is given the access, but you can't necessarily trust that that access is utilized in order to be impartial in a story. And that's why he took a shot. That is also why I was a big Jim Trotter guy. Jim Trotter is a bona fide reporter who directly works for the NFL, but very frequently chastised the NFL. Jim Trotter brought the hammer down. He was effectively an ombudsman, right? I learned that term the other day. Now I use it all the time.
It's a good word.
It's a good word.
It really is.
He was an ombudsman for the NFL. That is to say, employed by the NFL to cover the NFL and to be there kind of like, hey, we're not trying to hide anything. Look, Jim Trotter, who we paid to come after us, is doing that. Jim Trotter last week had some questions for Roger Goodell. Jim Trotter, from inside the call is coming from inside the NFL. Jim Trotter has, for a couple of years now, been the guy on the inside that has been asking the NFL, can you talk about your hiring practices of black coaches? Now, you don't have to like that that's a discussion point amongst the NFL fandom, but it is, specifically for African-American coaches and fans of the league. Jim Trotter has asked about this a number of times, but last week, he went directly to Roger Goodell and asked the question, hey, there is a perception out there that hiring practices of black coaches in the NFL are unfair and discriminatory. Can you answer that? Then yesterday, after he did that, Jim Trotter got fired by the NFL. Now, beginning, as I try to do, we're talking about both sides of a story. Is it possible that Jim Trotter's contract just ran up and they're budget cutting? Sure, everybody's budget cutting right now. Disney's laying off like 7,000 employees over the next 6 months.
Can I throw something else out there
Fire
real quick?
away.
Is it possible he knew that he was going to be fired, so he asked questions in a way that when he was fired, it made it look like something it wasn't?
I'd say that that's possible, sure. I would also say these are questions Jim Trotter's been asking for a number of years now. Like, it wasn't out of lockstep for Jim Trotter. But it was, as far as I know, and I could be wrong here because I did not go research Jim Trotter's entire catalog for this, but it was the most to the face of the commissioner that Jim Trotter has been so far. Like, he asked the commish publicly, can you talk about what a lot of people believe to be discriminatory hiring practices towards black coaches in the National Football League? And less than a week later, he was fired. He sent out a tweet that said, quote, Some personal news. This will be my final week with the NFL Media Group. I was informed over the weekend that my contract is not being renewed. I thank NFL Network and NFL.com for the lessons learned and affirmed over the last 5 years.
By the way, your contract not being renewed is not a firing.
It's not the same as being fired.
But
it's being released.
It is made to be sound like he was fired by everybody, and they just didn't renew his contract.
Sure, but
just like if your contract comes up and they don't rehire you, they didn't fire you technically. They just didn't.
But as you and I have seen, because everything is professional wrestling many times, there are plenty of wrestlers who get in a little trouble and then suddenly their contract is not renewed, even though they may have been with the company for many, many years. So you're right. It's not a firing. It is an interesting point in time after 5 years for them to decide that now's a good time for you not to work here anymore, right? When he put these questions out. So again, not a tinfoil guy, not a conspiracy theorist guy. It is absolutely possible that this was in the cards, right? 6 months ago, the NFL was like, look, Trotter's contract runs up in March. We're having to pay him too much because he is the most recognized reporter from the inside the NFL Media Group. And we got to let him go because we're budget cutting just like everybody else. Although the NFL is making more money than ever before, so it's not a great line. But it is interesting timing that Jim Trotter put this in the face of Roger Goodell publicly. A conversation that, by the way, you will notice while there are 3 black former head coaches suing the NFL, while that lawsuit's coming down the pipe and there are plenty of questions being asked, Jim Trotter went straight to the commission of the NFL and said, would you like to address this? Because there are some folks, myself included, who have a problem with this. And then suddenly his contract doesn't get renewed. Now, I don't know if Jim Trotter was on a year-to-year deal, 2-year deal, 3-year deal. I don't know. He has not said. I don't think we have access to Jim Trotter's hiring contract. But it certainly is fair to say that if you are of the background that finds yourself in line with Jim Trotter and his questions on this controversy, I think is fair to say, then it's not that big of a leap to go, Jim Trotter took a controversy that the NFL is not willing to discuss, is facing multiple lawsuits for, and a problem that doesn't seem to be getting better amongst the league, had the audacity to ask Roger Goodell about it. And, well, you missed it. Cody Rhodes is on ESPN for no reason. Gosh, people love wrestling.
What do you mean? Oh, okay. For no reason. That was sarcasm.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
My bad.
And suddenly Jim Trotter gets let go. And I don't find any problem, although I may not fully agree yet. This is not saying I'm not taking a position on it, that it is true or false, but I don't have a problem with somebody looking at it and going, they let go of Jim Trotter because he took one of the biggest issues optically the NFL has right now, and he tried to force Roger Goodell for the first time to address it, and Roger Goodell doesn't want to address it, so the NFL let the guy go.
So you're saying the NFL wouldn't have considered the look and the timing and the optics of this whole thing if they didn't renew someone's contract right around this time?
I'm saying they haven't done it yet. And Jim Trotter put it in front of the commish, unlike I've seen anybody else do, or at least as visibly as there have been other reporters who have asked Roger Goodell about this to his face, and Roger has just thrown out the same 3 or 4 company lines. This is the first time somebody with Roger Goodell's signature on the paycheck has done it.
I just wish some reporter would have the guts to ask Roger Goodell, hey, there's supposedly a problem with hiring practices in the NFL. Could you give us an exact number that would satisfy the people who think that it's unfair? Because if you have an exact number, then you know how to reach that number, and then those people can go away and find something else to complain about.
See, I appreciate what you're doing.
This is an argument you and I have had a bunch of times, because if you have, there's not a problem until there's a number, until you say, this will make us happy. We will let this thing go and move on, and we will think things are fair after you have this amount of coaches. And then once you do that, then it can be turned around and go, where are all the white coaches? Where are all this racist coaches? Where are all this racist coaches? There's, I believe, more. I believe the white players are the minority in the NFL. You don't hear them complain about. I just throw a number. Quit trying to make a problem where there really is none.
See, you don't get to say there's not a problem.
Why is there a problem?
Discrimination.
Why is there a problem? Who is the outcry from the players? Are there all the players standing? No, wait a minute. They have a players union. They can all stand up as one body and go, all right, we're not playing. We're not playing until this is taken care of.
They're not going to do. So the problem with discrimination.
If you care about something so much, that's what you do. If there's a problem, you unite as players and say, we're not playing until this is taken care of. They're not doing that.
Discrimination is not something that is concrete. You cannot say this is something that we accomplish and we get to say discrimination's over. That's not how it works. You don't get to do that with race. Abstract constructs, which have a concrete impact on people's lives, is not something you just quantify and go, well, when we get to seven black head coaches, discrimination's over. That's not how it works. Right? It's like the people who, when Obama got elected, went, "Oh, racism's over. We got a black president." That's not how it works. It's not a hard evidence. It's the typical philosophy. I don't know what pornography is, but I know I want to see it.
I think the people who complain about these things are looking for something to complain about.
Do you believe discrimination is a real thing?
Discrimination exists against all races, not just one. Yes. I do believe it exists. As someone who grew up and got picked on because they were white. Yes, it happens on every race, every creed, every religion has discrimination against it. I don't believe it exists in the NFL the way you're trying to make it sound and the way others are trying to make it sound, because it just doesn't.
A league that is majoritively African-American by player, you just said that, has 3 black head coaches, one of them brand new, right? So up until 2 months ago, they had 2 out of 32.
So judging people by the content of the character and not the color of their skin, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, is no longer important. It's about quotas. If these guys are good enough to be a head coach, they should be a head coach. It shouldn't matter what color they are.
What discrimination is.
You're right, but that's not happening. It's not happening.
No.
It's
you
not.
don't get to say it's not happening.
And you don't get to say it is.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
Numbers-wise.
This is really an opinion. Yeah, numbers-wise, there are more black folks in the league than there are white.
And yet there are 2 head coaches that are black, and we very rarely have a number above 3 out of 32 teams.
This is,
now we're arguing, let's be honest. We're arguing in circles right now, right? You're not going to come to my side. I'm not going to come to yours.
Because I will never understand your point of view.
And that's fine.
And that's just how it goes.
That's fine. And that's where arguments come from. And that's fine. We can have that conversation. Again, right now, for the purposes of being on air, we're going in circles. We're not going anywhere. Here's what I will direct it back to the initial conversation. And the initial conversation here is this. Jim Trotter took a problem that whether Rob and Lonzo will ever see eye to eye on it, I will not say majority of people, but a large percentage of people do believe is a problem. And if somebody comes to you and says, I have a problem, even if you disagree with the problem, the difference is, Lonzo, you're at least addressing it, right? You're saying, here's my perspective, here's my opinion, here's my beliefs on why I believe this way.
It's risky addressing it.
Sure thing. Sure, it's a tough conversation. Any conversation about racism, discrimination, anti-Semitism, they're tough conversations to have. I don't disagree with you. But I also think they're necessary conversations, even if someone in the conversation doesn't believe that it is real or have an impact or whatever. That's all fine. That's all well and good. What I'm saying is it's still worth having this conversation. It's worth letting people voice their opinion. And here's a guy who did just that, and then a week later gets released, not fired, released from his contract. All of this to go that the NFL has an interesting perspective on perspective. They had a great opportunity to take somebody who has a big stake in this in Jim Trotter, to sit down and have the conversation and address this. And maybe they get to a point where they take a guy like Jim Trotter and they go with those argument. And a guy like Jim Trotter goes, you know what? After consideration and some great thoughts from the NFL, I've come to the conclusion that there isn't discrimination, right? They could have the conversation, and instead they went, not only are we not going to have the discrimination, we're not going to renew the contract. of one of the most trusted NFL reporters in any organization, we're not going to renew his contract at a point in time where he has become a centerpiece of this discussion. Instead, you know what I would tune in for? You know what I'd pay money to watch? What if you sat down Jim Trotter, Roger Goodell, 2 or 3 players, and 2 or 3 owners all in a room and just had a 1 hour open forum, a 1 hour discussion where you address this issue and nothing else. You don't push it during games. I'm not asking you to do it on an NFL Sunday pregame show. I'm not asking you to do it based around spring training. I'm going, you go to HBO, you go, we want to set Trotter and Goodell opposite from each other. We want to put 2 black head coaches and 2 NFL owners behind them, and we'll have a 1 hour roundtable public forum. We'll take questions off of Twitter or a call-in number or whatever, and let's have this forum. Let's have this discussion, because this is a conversation that people want to have and want to have had. And instead of doing something like that, they just let the guy go. Optically, even if this isn't true, optically, it looks like the NFL is trying to actively avoid the discussion. Now, maybe they should, because they are wrapped up in 3 lawsuits about it. But optically, it looks like the NFL is actively avoiding the conversation, which doesn't help advance it at all.
I am curious about if those lawsuits are won, what happens? Those people who are suing get money, right?
Partially.
Well, but do the things that they win over, does change happen because of it?
I think first and
because
foremost,
it seems like this is about money.
First and foremost, if they win that, then the folks who believe that is discrimination now get to go. The legal system now agrees that there is discrimination in your hire. Because remember, to win that, they will have to prove that there is discrimination, which is it's hard to prove an abstract concept. And if they are able to win that in the eyes of the legal system, and there's going to be appeals and appeals of the appeals and all that, but they can come back and go, in the eyes of the legal system, we proved that there's discrimination in your hiring practices. Now you have to address it, instead of doing what Goodell's done in not addressing it and releasing people as in his employ who have tried to.
Well, hopefully, and this will be the only way this solves this, is if they should win the case, that the judge points out there has to be this percentage of this in order for there to prove that there's no longer discrimination.
You keep going back to that because you're asking for a concrete number when you're talking about an abstract subject, right?
No, I'm talking about something that the people who are upset about will always find a way to be upset about. It's an unsolvable problem. That's what bothers me.
Right,
you cannot solve this problem.
We should just do nothing.
You cannot solve this problem.
When a problem is unsolvable, we should just do nothing.
If it's truly a problem, that league should not be profitable. There should be people going, I don't want to work there, because you know why? Because they discriminate. That's not what's happening, though, is it? If you get a chance to work for the NFL, you're going to go work for the NFL, because in the end, it's about the money you make.
If you ask people, this is the same reason why you will see a ton of outrage online about a billion different topics, right? Gun control, abortion. We're having these national polarizing discussions, Twitter. Yet, whenever there are organized efforts to promote the discussion, most people don't get engaged with them, right? I got a lot of stuff I would love to say about politics on Twitter, but I don't anymore. Do you know why? Because it would make me making a living that much more difficult. And I will acknowledge that it makes me feel like a coward sometimes, but I got bills to pay. As Heath Slater said, I got kids. I don't, but I got bills to pay. And there are some places,
not trying to make light of the situation, but if there's an announcement you need to make,
there's not, and I don't, right? But the point is, I got bills to pay. So do a lot of other people. And a lot of people have a very hard time, despite how important the cause might be to them, to go, I will risk my livelihood. I will risk the ability to pay rent or mortgage. I will risk the ability to turn on my lights or put food on the table for this cause, even when I know that me continuing to make my living is advancing the problem, not the solution. It's a big ask, but it doesn't mean because the solution is abstract and finding a solution is very difficult, doesn't mean that if you are part of the conversation, you should just walk away from it. Sure, it's hard. You should still have the talk, the conversation. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Got a few more things I want to get in here before we get to Twitter trending topics and call it a Tuesday. Your input is welcome. 71307 is the text number. 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N. We'll read them on the air. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Hey, welcome back, Kevin. Work on your sentence structure.
Kevin popped in last week, and then he said, this show is boring without Lonzo here. I'm going back to the opposition. And that's what he told me to our face.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have told me that. That goes against our adversarial relationship. Now I got to figure out what I've done to Rob, because Rob brought up NIL. He's brought up NFL hiring, the things that we argue about the most. He's brought them all up in one show. I'm being punished for something. Why are you whispering? Still don't know why he whispered. By the way, the mullet was never going to happen because I don't bow to peer pressure. I mean, have you seen how I dress? As far as the shoes goes, again, I think I get in trouble with corporate, but I'm willing to put up a GoFundMe so we can raise the funds for me to buy shoes. I'm going to get shoes like next week. Shoes and an oil change. Then I'll be eating canned tuna for the next 2 weeks. I am kind of afraid to go see how much shoes are now with the with inflation and the way the economy is going right now. If some things are expensive that shouldn't be now, shoes are probably way up there. But see, Rob is in my head when it comes to shoes. Because, dude, I don't know. I don't know what cool shoes are. And why should I care? I'm a grandpa. I'm not supposed to be cool. Grandpas are not supposed to be cool. So whatever shoes I buy is not going to matter.
Lonzo, you don't keep that haircut because it's not cool.
I keep my haircut because I can show you family photos. It's a family tradition, and because I like it. Same reason why Rob keeps his haircut. Someday Rob will be risky and part his hair to the other side.
When it gets longer, I have to. Right?
Really?
I have 4 cowlicks on my head, but 2 in the front, 2 in the back, right? I have 1 back here, 1 back here. And when it's shorter, short for me. When this is short, these cowlicks are stronger, so I have to go this way. It's not an option. But when it gets down to like here, when I grow it out to like jawbone level, this one becomes like a fist fight. So it has to go the other way. And what I can't do, I used to when it was very long, and I don't know when this changed or how this changed. I used to when it was long, part it down the middle. I had like the fall just because you kind of had to at that point, correct? And this cowlick would lay down, but as I've aged, like this cowlick got more dominant. So now when it's long, it has the part on that side and come over.
I also had 4 cowlicks, but I think I've lost 3 of them because of receding hairline. Did have some way up in the front. They're gone now. And I do have one in the back, and I think it's gone too. So, I mean. So you have that to look forward to. As you get older, your cowlicks will fall out.
I hope. I hate them. The other thing is I can't have a medium length haircut. Either it has to be short or long. Like this, I'm about 3 months away from wearing a hat every day because it's in that middle phase where I can't do anything.
You're getting like Mitch Albom trying to cover up your ears a little bit now.
Much.
So yeah.
Texter said the Panthers had a coach take over and turn the team around, and what did they do? They gave the spot to a coach who hasn't proved he can win yet.
Wait. Turn the team around?
100%.
He did not turn the team around.
100%.
He did not turn. He proved that he could not win the games that he needed to win. That's why he's not there. If they went to the playoffs, he would be the coach. Has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that he didn't win enough.
I physically could not disagree with that take more if you paid me to. But we'll come back to that later.
I know radio salary. It wouldn't take much to pay you to up that.
Texter says, Axe Zoe, has he ever worked a job where he saw discrimination? And if so, did he leave it because of that or another reason? I agree, Rob. It's hard to just quit because of that when you have bills or a family. Love the show. Signed, Corey in SC.
By the way, there's discrimination in every part of your life, including home. I mean, there just is. There is no place where there is no discrimination, except for maybe in your sleep, although you might have that problem when you dream. I don't know. You probably discriminate against yourself sometimes. It's just you cannot eliminate that entirely from society or from humankind.
Nope, but you can do your best to minimize it. The inability to
when
get rid of something
what-
bad doesn't mean you shouldn't try to get rid of
When
it.
you know what it is to make it ease, when you know what it is to make it disappear, you work towards that. But when that moving the goalpost, as they say, happens so often, then there is no fixing the problem, because there are some people who only thrive in pointing out that there's a problem. And most of those people have no real solution.
Right, but if you were talking about a couple of people, fine. You're talking about a lot of people
Hey,
who
man.
believe this is a problem.
Hey, man, how you fix it is knowing what it looks like when it's fixed. What does it look
No.
like when it's fixed? Yeah. I mean, you got to have in your mind.
You're right.
You got to have in your mind.
What does it look like when it's fixed is there's no more racial discrimination in hiring practices anywhere, but study after study after study continuously prove that there are. And just because I don't know what the exact solution is, doesn't mean you don't chip away at the problem. Philosophically.
So you're saying you would not know when it was fixed?
I would like to think I know when it's fixed, when I can go,
Well,
this isn't happening anymore.
Exactly. That means in your mind, you know what it looks like
again,
when it's fixed.
Correct. I also can't say I definitively know how to get to that point. But just because I don't know how to get there doesn't mean I don't start making progress, right? If I got to get somewhere, you know what I know doesn't fix it? Sitting on my ass, not doing anything, right? Sitting here, not doing anything. In fact, not only doesn't fix it, but it actually makes it further away from being fixed. But we'll come back to this. Let me get a couple more texts in here. Texter says, is this a topic of discussion for coaches at HBCU level? Do you mean like as far as HBCU coaches hiring non-black coaches? So that's a whole different discussion, and I'm more than happy to get into it. But the concept of HBCU is to create opportunity for a demographic of people who have historically been shut out of opportunities at other institutions. So now they have an opportunity in a place that is theirs to make up for the opportunities that, historically speaking, throughout the majority of the country's history, they have not had access to, right? That it's a different situation. But again, deeper conversation we go into later. Texter says, look at what the Panthers just did with their head coaching position. Texter said, Lonzo is right. If they are serious, let the players sit out. They're already rich. It won't hurt them. It would absolutely hurt a guy who has a one-year NFL career, and that's it. Then he's done with football. It hurts. And the majority of guys in the league are guys that play 2 or 3 years.
So again, the money's more important, but that's fine.
I would like you to find me any consequential percentage of people who say that money isn't the most important thing. You can't do anything you can't be healthy in this country unless you've got money. So yes, it is.
Well, some kind of money. Yeah, true.
Right. All right. 844 fan
You
phone.
said you could get away from it, but you keep reading the text, and that's all the texts are talking about.
I'm walking away from the
Okay,
text.
all right.
All right. If you want to keep them coming, 71307, start your text with fan FA.
Yeah, but what's the point of them sending them if you're walking away from them?
Well, they will be tracked.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I'll keep, and I engage with a lot of text. All right. Let me get this story in here real quick, because we talked earlier about Chuck Barkley saying that NIL is ruining college basketball, despite the fact that this year's tournament is probably the most compelling tournament in years, 3 years deep into the NIL. Now, there are people saying that the ticket prices of the Final Four prove that basketball is failing. Why? Because ticket prices a week and a half ago to get into the Final Four were $286 to get you into the entire Final Four. $286 got you into the both semifinal games. Today, you can buy a ticket to both semifinal games, Lonzo, for $195. So they've come off about $70. Sorry, $90, right? They've gone from $286 down to $195. And people are going, wait a minute, look at this. The ticket prices are plummeting for the Final Four.
What is the matchup between the 4 teams that are left that would make them plummet the furthest?
I'll tell you what it's
What
not.
is the least sexy matchup that could happen?
In the championship game?
Yes.
FAU Miami? An all Florida matchup?
There you go.
That's not why they're plummeting, though. I'll tell you why they're plummeting. They're plummeting because where is the Final Four this year? It's in Dallas, Texas.
That's come on, dude. It has to do with the teams who travel well. They're all out of the tournament.
Wait, I'm not done. Where's the Final Four? Dallas, Texas. Which 2 teams were betting odds-on favorites to get into the Final Four in the round of 8? The University of Houston and the University of Texas, right? There was, as of 4 days ago, the possibility of not 1, but 2 teams from the state of Texas making the Final Four, Houston and Texas. Both of them got bounced in the Elite 8. Who are the people predominantly buying Final Four tickets? People from the city it's being held in. The people predominantly buying Final Four tickets were Texans. Largely Texas fans or Houston fans who would have gotten the chance to travel just a couple of hours east or west to see their team play in a national championship semifinal matchup with a ticket to the final on the line. Both those teams got bounced, which means that if you were a University of Houston fan who wanted a Final Four ticket, were you willing to pay $298 to watch them play in a national semifinal? I mean, if you got the money, sure, of course. If you're a University of Texas fan, would you be willing to pay $300 to watch your team play in a national semifinal? Sure. More than you'd be willing to pay $300 to watch FAU, Miami, UConn, San Diego State playing it. So yes, there is going to be some element of it that is based on the fact that Miami, while having a nationally recognized fan base, is a private school with a smaller fan base. FAU is a mid-major. That's a tiny little school in Florida. Quick, anybody tell me what city FAU is in? I got to tell you, I'm from Florida, and I can't tell you right now where FAU is in that state.
All right, so I know it's not Destin.
It's not Destin. It's not the Panhandle. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, all right.
It is not between Pensacola, Florida, far west, and the butthole of America, Jacksonville, Florida.
So it's probably not Orlando.
I just looked it up. It's Boca Raton.
That was going to be my next one.
Was it? You were going to go Boca next?
No, I wasn't.
Big Boca
I was going Key West next, then Boca Raton.
I know it's not in Key West. I've been drinking there too. All right.
Where is Boca Raton within
Central Florida?
So
it's
beaches
like
in sight?
Yes. Yeah. It's on the beach. It's a beach community.
All right.
It's a very nice beach. I like Boca. I've been to Boca a couple of times. Had no idea FAU was there. So they're probably not packing a ton of people on a plane to Dallas. San Diego State, Mountain West, mid-major school. Good school. Not a huge fan base, right? Probably the only fan base in the Final Four that's going to travel exceptionally well is the UConn Huskies, a blue blood. More on the women's side than the men's, but still true, right? So yes, there is going to be some impact. If Kansas was in if one of the other Blue Bloods are in, that was an Elite Eight caliber team. If Bama was in, then yes, these ticket prices they probably still wouldn't be $298. They'd be like $225, but they'd still be up. But the tickets did not come down because of the fact that there's no Blue Bloods in and it's ruined college basketball. The tickets came down because a week ago, people in Texas had the opportunity to see two teams from Texas in the Final Four, and they were buying $300 tickets on a gamble that either Houston or Texas would make it in. And now that both Texas teams got bounced and this game is in Texas, those tickets aren't valuable to them anymore. They're not FAU fans, UConn fans, San Diego State fans, or Miami fans.
What kind of or how many jobs will we have to be able to afford even the cheapest tickets?
Lonzo, I work for the press passes, buddy. When Duke and Sparty were in town last year, I did not spend $100 on a ticket to get in. Your boy sat courtside with a laptop and a fancy badge with his picture on it.
Yeah, I did that a couple of years ago. Except for the, laptop.
Texter said, if UNC, Kansas, UCLA, and Virginia were the Final Four, tickets would not have gone down. Parity is uninteresting. I disagree. I think they still would have, they would not have come down as much, right? But I don't know if you'd have got $300 for a semifinal game. I mean, parity may be uninteresting to you. Maybe you're one of those people that truly believe sports is at its best when Alabama and Georgia are winning college football, when the Yankees and Red Sox are winning baseball, when the Patriots are winning football, and when the Celtics are winning the NBA. I don't agree with you. I think basketball is at its best when the best basketball teams are winning, and FAU knocked off Blue Bloods. So did Miami. So did San Diego State. When they beat Alabama, the Aztecs became the most interesting team in the tournament until FAU got in.
If you root for any of those teams that Rob just said, that is when sports are best because
If you're a fan of that
your
team.
team is winning. Yes.
But if I am I always go to these teams. If I'm a Kansas City Royals fan, is the World Series better when the Yankees are in it? No. The World Series is best when the best teams in baseball are in it.
If I were a
And
baseball
when the umpires
fan,
aren't screwing up strike zones.
if I were a baseball fan, I'd have to root for that Kansas City Royals team because what an amazing team that is. And anyone who's a fan of the Kansas City Royals, they're the top-notch, grade A in my book. I'm expecting an email. I'm trying to help.
Listen, the Royals got one of the best rookie classes going right now. Got a really good young core. They just got to develop them. That's baseball, baby. Which, speaking of, April 15th, Bet for the Cycle returns to the BetQL network every Saturday from noon to 4 with yours truly and Cody Decker.
And a loser's going to have to eat ranch ice cream.
Oh, dude, we did the smell test yesterday. If you haven't seen it, go to youtube.com, search the Fan Upstate. Yesterday, Zoe and I popped up a video where I just smelled the ranch ice cream, and it physically made me gag, dude. I thought somebody's got to eat a scoop of ranch ice cream as a bet punishment was like, LOL. Nope. There's going to be a trash can next to the desk of whichever one of us loses the opening week bet. Not look forward to that, like, at all. Texture said, Rob, what do you think of the JT Realmuto ejection yesterday? I think you should go to thefanupstate.com, go to the podcast section, and listen to the last segment of the first hour of the show where I talked about it and said that not only is it a joke, but I now know the name of Randy Rosenberg, the umpire, who should be fired on the spot for what he did. Trash, hot garbage, dude. Back after this to wrap up the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Oh, Kevin is back, huh?
Come on, Kevin. It's time for that Josh Allen hype to start. Or is it finally over?
Is Josh Allen trending by chance?
No.
Okay, well, then I have something for Kevin about Josh Allen when we come back.
Lamar Jackson street Orlando with LJ Aaron from number 8 beat down in Baltimore. The Ravens quarterback revealed Monday that he's requested a trade following stalled contract talks. The Ravens head coach John Harbaugh tells NFL Network he's still hopeful things can be worked out.
100%, 10% want him to be a Raven, and I know he's going to have to be a Raven. I'm positive about that. I know the people that are involved, John Taylor, that works with going, I'm not worried about it too much.
If you're not straight, Patriots an option. Team owner Robert Kraft says he received a text from Robert Weekville telling him Jackson wants to come to New England. Kraft says he
All right, bash Josh Allen. I'm back. I hope there's bashing.
and eventually made observation that Aaron Rodgers will eventually be their quarterback. General manager Joe Douglas says he's not connected to the Packers, and there's no more deadline to get a deal done.
Yeah, it's not good when coaches suddenly are not have to step away. Hopefully, I didn't see why he had to step away. Hopefully, it's not for health reasons. McDermott was pretty good at calling plays when he was the Panthers. I said earlier on the stream when you were gone that you picked every topic that you and I would fight about today. So I figured I did something that just to upset you. And so you did that on purpose. Or it was a welcome back gift on Tuesday. It could have been one of those.
No cost to you, and the shipping is free. For your free COVID-19 test, call Achieve DX at 800-300-1634. That's 800-300-1634. Call now. When you grill with Kingsford charcoal and add Kingsford garlic, onion, and paprika flavor boosters, your special occasion becomes unforgettable. Made with 100% real spices, Kingsford garlic, onion, and paprika flavor boosters can be added to any pre-lit charcoal to add a whole new rich
Paprika flavor booster.
So good.
I think I've only had paprika on deviled eggs. What else do you put paprika
There's
on?
no way. Paprika goes on.
I mean, I might have had
everything.
it on something else, but I mean, it's like seen it and tasted it on deviled eggs. If you had to describe what paprika tastes like, what would you say?
A spice.
Which would be accurate, but you know, it's like asking what does time taste like, and I'm not talking about, you know, the unit where we measure seconds, minutes, hours. And yes, I'm about to quote, "Are you going to Scarborough Affair? Parsley,
Are
sage,
you going
rosemary,
to-
and thyme."
Banger.
With Swiffer Wet Jet, you start with a fresh pad and cleaning solution every time. And when you're done, you just toss the pad. Swiffer Wet Jet, the faster, easier, cleaner way to clean your floors.
Is it? I mean, it is red, so I guess that kind of makes sense, Kevin. But so you're saying you can make paprika at home? How would you make paprika? Would you like use
I'm looking right now.
a cheese shredder? I mean,
It is the dried, ground, ripened fruit pods of less pungent varieties of the Capsicum annuum species. It is mildly flavored and prized for its brilliant red color. It is closely related to red pepper, which also derives from the Capsicum annuum spices.
well, there you go.
Uh,
Was not questioning Kevin. I just I'd never heard about. I never even thought about it.
Paprika is a red pepper that is then dried and ground up. I love our stream chats.
I was going to say,
learn something new every day.
It's time for Twitter trending topics, but if you were watching the stream, you learned how paprika is made. And you may say, well, I don't care how paprika is made. Yeah, you do. Because if you didn't know it and then now you know it, it's a good day.
Yeah. Walk away knowing something from the stream, which you can watch at facebook.com/thefanupstate or on YouTube at the Fan Upstate every single day.
Look at Kevin in between insults at me, dropping knowledge.
Dropping the knowledge bomb.
Look at that. All right. The first thing that's trending is Taylor Mike Sell.
I got nothing.
Okay. And I didn't think you would.
I got nothing.
But I watched the majority of the Ohio State game last night, and she's trending because she hit 5 out of 6 3-pointers.
That's who that is.
And if the defense, if they hadn't keyed on her in the second half, Ohio State would have won that game. But they got smart at halftime and went, if we shut her down, we're going to win this game. And that's what they did.
Well, I think that's what I love about South Carolina. That's what I love about Iowa and Caitlin Clark. Like, first off, you can double up Caitlin Clark and she'll just start spotting up at the logo, no problem. It's kind of like South Carolina. Sure, you can go down and double team Aaliyah Boston if you want. But there's like 3 other players out there that can score from almost anywhere. In fact, yesterday I was watching that South Carolina game, and the lady friend was like, where's Zaya? And as soon as they double team Aaliyah, Zaya just starts cooking from the outside. I'm like, there she is. It's got to be set up for them. Iowa, same thing. They started running doubles at Caitlin Clark outside of the 3-point line. So what did she do? Start finding players down inside the paint, letting them score up too. Players like Boston and Clark aren't just great because they can score from anywhere, which they are, and they can. They're great because if you double them and you're going to try to stop them from getting 40, they'll find 2 other players who can get 20 to make up for it. Well, and great teams are composed that way.
The cool part, I mean, if I hadn't watched that game last night, I wouldn't know why she was trending, but her 3 is smooth. It was nice, and I thought Ohio State had a chance at it, but once they shut her down, it was over.
There's about 5 women still standing in this tournament who are freaking snipers, dude. I mean, can connect from 10 feet deep, and it's impressive.
And I got to tell you something, the women's game, they can shoot.
They can shoot.
unlike a lot of the teams that are left in men's college basketball. The next thing that's trending is Secret Invasion.
So I saw that trending earlier, though I did not get a chance to really dive into why. I know there's been some casting news and notes, which is interesting as they scramble because of what's happened with Jonathan Majors.
They dropped the date, release date is June 21st.
Really?
Yeah, that thing's done. So they're just doing effects now.
See, are they worried because of how poorly Ant-Man 3 did relatively to some of the other debuts?
Well, this is
Disney trying to introduce the next era.
This is Disney stuff. So I mean, this is you're watching.
Yeah, but I know.
TV.
But I would argue as the
Samuel L.
Jackson,
also no, not Jackson, but Jackson, can do no wrong. I mean, if he's in it, you're going to watch it. Plus Skrulls. I think it's going to be Amelia Clark, I believe her name is in it, and some other people. I'm looking forward to it. The last thing is trending. I saved it for last because CM Punk is trending.
CM Punk got torched by Mox yesterday.
And I haven't watched it yet, but I got to watch it.
Mox.
Or listen to it.
Punk has put up like 2 or 3 Instagram posts that have complained about his time at AEW. And they have been, as a former CM Punk fan, stupid things to post. And he's getting right. And then he tries to come back with like, haha, just joking, guys. Like, no, you weren't. Mox torched him yesterday to the point that we're all just watching the demise of Punk's career. Self-inflicted, by the way, to be clear. Hey, speaking of wrestling, Thursday, 11:20 Fight Club, it's WrestleMania week. We got a lot to talk about tomorrow on the show. More Final Four talk, more fallout from the owners and coaches meetings. Y'all have a great rest of your Tuesday. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. For Lonzo, I'm Rob. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. All right, ladies and gentlemen, dudes, dudettes, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate it greatly, and we will see you all back here tomorrow for another rousing rendition of the Rob Brown Show. Have a great one. Goodbye.